Yeah. Namaste. Welcome to another edition of our lecture series on Christianism. So, today is the third part of the lecture series, which is being delivered by Dr. Bijeet Prasantha. So, welcome, Bijitda. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
And Shubho Saptami to you and to all the viewers who are in Kolkata or other parts. So it's a Shubho Panchami today. So today the festival begins officially for many people in Kolkata and outside. So enjoy and do pray to the Ma Durga that all your sorrows and all the evils that you have in your life gets banished by her. So, Bijitda, so just give us an overview before you start the lecture so that the audience can actually follow what we're going to talk today and what's the point you know touch upon.
Right. So today is lecture three of this whole lecture series on Christianism. And in the past two lectures, we have discussed firstly how Christianism is inherently a cult, or so to say, in the eyes of the Roman philosophers, it is a superstitio and not a religio. So Christianity is, as per the contemporary philosophers who saw Christianism growing and brewing in Rome, they discussed that Christianism is a superstition and it is not a religion. And I think in India also we should stick to this narrative that it is a superstition and a cult which is based on false historicism and false facts, right? That cannot be like it is built around some stories which cannot be substantiated through any historical facts or records, contemporary historical records. And as a result, they fabricated a large number of historical records and facts around Christianism, and also it was being seen as some sort of a dirt, right? So Romans used to say ki all these dirty things are born in Judea, which is Jerusalem, and it reaches Rome. This is how the Roman philosophers and the administrators used to look at Christianity. And then in the second lecture, we talked about how Christianity subverted the whole right and wrong argument into good and evil argument, right? They needed that because they had to firstly make an argument violent, right? Because they had to impose some sort of violent superstructure on the Roman society to curb the spontaneous spirit of the Romans, of the Roman elites as well as Roman Aam Admis, the Prajas, right? And secondly, they needed the good and evil argument to sort of distinguish Jesus and the Christian God from the pantheon of all the Greco-Roman gods, the all the assimilative, spiritual Roman tradition and the Roman gods. To distinguish the Christian God from them, they had to bring about this good and evil sort of binarity rather than right and wrong binarity. Because in right and wrong binarity, you need solid argument, right, to prove something is right or something is wrong. But in a good and evil binarity, you need faith and not science and not argument, anything like that, right? So that is why they needed to subvert the whole discussion around spirituality from right and wrong to good and evil. And even now you can see a lot of cults or a lot of ideologies that are being born. It is born from the womb of same sort of Christianism or Christianistic idea, which actually claiming ki this is good, whatever, Brahmins are good, Sudras are evil, bourgeois are good, or proletariats are evil, or proletariats are good, bourgeois are evil, and all these sort of ideas. Like whatever, heterosexuals are bad, homosexuals are good, and all these sort of good and evil argument through which you can sort of paint the whole world into black and white. It is the choicest gift of Christianism to mankind. Okay. Yeah, so this is basically what we discussed in the second lecture. And in this lecture, we are going to focus on Christianity in the eyes of the European scholars and philosophers. And specifically for this lecture, I want to focus on Christianism in the eyes of Christian philosophers and Christian scholars, because that will give us an idea to about how these, like their own scholars, they used to see Christianism in the early day Christianism, and what sort of modification they did. Because Christianism, no matter what they say, it is a revelation or whatever, it is a political idea than a spiritual idea. So these all these sort of disciples, apostles, or pope, they sort of started. They were looking around the whole society, and based on how the society was reacting to Christianity and to Roman classical traditions, they were manipulating their narrative, and those narrative became part of these so-called revelations of Christianism. So, and in the whole process, we can dig first of all the inferiority complex about all these Christian philosophers, and their reinvention and rediscovery of new narratives. It will also help us understand how Christianism is spreading in India, right? Why this is necessary? Because, for example, you know that the Islamic practices, for example, in India, they are in stark contrast as compared to Hindu dharma, right? कि वो अगर if Hindus are rotating in the clockwise direction, we are going to use the anti-clockwise direction. If Hindus are keeping trees around their temples, then keeping trees in mosque is a guna, right? As written in Fatawa Alamgiri. And then if Hindus are, let's say, doing Murti Puja, then Murti Puja is haram. All these sort of direct clash with Hindu dharma makes like the whole Islamic tradition in physical contrast. You can literally notice ki okay, this is directly going against the belief of of Hindus and Hindu tradition and everything. So because of the clash, the conversion to Islamic fold from Hindu fold, it's relatively difficult, at least in India, no matter what people are saying. In Pakistan, Bangladesh, maybe there's a top-down agenda that is going on. Breathing exercise are all essential Hindu practice. Just saying. Okay, so I want to say one thing here. So when Rene Descartes, he wrote a book called Meditation, and meditation was banned by Christianism in Europe. Okay, so because in Christianism, meditation is inquisition, and it is sort of haram as per Christian tradition, right? Inquisition is haram in Christianism. So because so now they are saying ki, okay, let's practice Christian meditation. If they are saying that, clearly say this in their face ki, show them the list of books. Those were banned by Christians in 15, 16, even till like 20th century. Meditation is one of the book which was haram and which was banned by Christianism, and tell them that there is nothing such as Christian meditation. Meditation is in direct contrast with Christian beliefs. So if you are doing meditation, you are not a Christian, you are a Hindu. Tell them directly, okay? Anyway, so what I was saying was that Islamic practices are actually in direct contrast as compared to Hindu practices. So कोई भी अगर fold change करना चाहता है, he has to change everything that is going on in his mind, his tradition, how he moves, whatever, right? But in India, at least, the Christians are spreading in a very cunning way because they don't go in direct clash. So if a temple is distributing some nice payasam, right, some kheer, then the corresponding, so the church beside the temple, they will also start distributing some sort of payasam. So if Hindus are, let's say, bringing out Ratha Yatra, as you see recently in Twitter as well, Christians are also gonna bring some Ratha Yatra out. Okay, so they don't go directly with the, at least in the tradition. What they try to do, they penetrate by colluding, with evil minds, and colluding with jealousy, that is there in society through the some divisive lines, between, let's say, elites and non-elites, between educated, uneducated, between, so to say, upper caste, lower caste. So they exploit those divisive lines. Okay, so you won't see कि Christianism spreading, but वो लोग अपने काम कर देते हैं. That's why it is important to understand how Christianism spread in the Roman society, so that we can counteract. And there are many parallels how Christianism spread, and how sort of Indian state sort of changed its codes and its laws in order to give some place to Christianism, because Christianism knows how it needs to spread, and accordingly it just try to twist the Indian state and Indian sort of nation, to in order for the whole Christianism to find its place in various divisive lines and in various corners of the Indian nation. Okay, so that's why we are today we are going to find out Christianism in the eyes of the then Christian philosophers, the contemporary, like early Christian philosophers. Okay. So this is the recap, and you know that, okay. So Christianism, for example, when they started to spread, like when Constantine the Great, he adopted Christianity. He adopted out of guilt and not out of some pride. Why? Because there are historical records that says his son was probably engaged in some weird relationship with his wife, and I think it was adopted son, but he could not sort of bear with this fact, and probably he killed his wife, and it started to spread across the whole story started to spread across the whole Roman society, and uske liye he was getting sort of rebuked by the whole society, chastised by the society, and out of his own pagan mind, right, the whole spontaneous spiritual mind, he could not forgive himself. He killed his wife. So he was asking sort of he was going to the Roman priests, and then or philosophers, and he was asking how can I sort of atone for this sin, right? And then the whole pagan priest, everyone, they were saying वही कि कर्मा है तो भुगतना पड़ेगा, right? कि you have to suffer for this. I mean, there is no way out. We cannot give you any cheat code which will give you some atonement, right? But then some Christian sort of whatever local guy approached him, and he said that, okay, we can give you atonement, and we can give you some exoneration, right, from this sin, but you have to adopt Christianity. And so in the whole process, Constantine the Great, he adopted Christianity, and he was very happy. I mean, out of the whole process, because he got some position to some section of the society. Yeah, Shubho Mohapanchami. Oh wow, okay. So Santosh Mitra Square থেকে এলাম. Okay, right. Yeah, we saw the whole pandal there in Santosh Mitra Square. And Shubho Mohapanchami to all of you. Um, right. So once he got converted, उसका फिर लाज शर्म पूरा खत्म हो गया कॉन्स्टेंटाइन द ग्रेट का. And he started to sort of banish the whole pagan practices. He started to already like stop. Acha, हाँ. Then what happened? Then first thing that he did, he started जैसे जजिया होता है. He started to impose taxes on the pagans, और उनसे पैसा लेके he started to fund the Christian people, the Christian community, and he started to build a lot of Christian structures from the money from the with the money from the pagans. तो ये बेसिकली जैसे अब इंडिया के स्टेट भी करता है, द इंडियन स्टेट ऑल्सो एक्सटॉर्ट मनी फ्रॉम हिंदू टेम्पल्स, एंड देन दे फंड the Christians and the Muslims, वो अभी भी वो तब कॉन्स्टेंटाइन द ग्रेट का वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट पॉलिसीज था. एंड फिर धीरे धीरे I think Constantine the Great and then his son, they started to promote laws to ban polytheism, to ban idol worshipping. They started to destroy the temples. धीरे धीरे फिर uh, ये जो डिस्ट्रक्शन वाला पार्ट है हम लोग आई थिंक फोर्थ या फिफ्थ लेक्चर में वी विल डिस्कस. यहाँ पे क्या हुआ फिर they were destroying temples. They were, and at that time, remember, pagan temples used to be like libraries, right? I mean, they used to host huge libraries. रोम में जितने सारे बड़े बड़े टेम्पल थे, या फिर अलेक्जेंड्रिया हो गया, या फिर दमस्कस हो गया, ये सारे जगह जितने भी बड़े बड़े टेम्पल्स थे, those used to also have biggest libraries. ओके, तो यहाँ पे एक किसी का कोटेशन है जो कहते हैं कि a monastery without books is like a garden without herbs, a meadow without flowers, a tree without leaves, um, and basically monks are basically the derivative of all this nice practice, right? And monks are like the light of these places. ठीक है. So this is the tradition. वो जैसे हिंदुओं में भी ये ट्रेडिशन है, राइट? एटलीस्ट था तब कि टेम्पल के साथ एक बड़ा लाइब्रेरी भी होता था, और जो लाइब्रेरी या यूनिवर्सिटी होता था वो बिहार कहलाया जाता था. मतलब वो पूजा स्थल भी होता था वहां पे. Now this is a very powerful thing, right? Because जैसे एक सेरापिस का एक टेम्पल था. सेरापिस आई थिंक सीरिया में था, या नहीं अलेक्जेंड्रिया में था शायद. बाय द वे उस टाइम पे काफी सारा अलेक्जेंड्रिया हुआ करता था. सो वन ऑफ द मेन बिग अलेक्जेंड्रिया वाज द इजिप्ट वन. और वहां पे एक सेरापिस का टेम्पल था जो बेसिकली पहाड़ के ऊपर था, और इट वाज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट टेम्पल्स, जहाँ पे बहुत एक बड़ा लाइब्रेरी था. उसको फिर वहाँ सेरापिस का मूर्ति वूर्ति तोड़ के पूरा वो जो टेम्पल था उसको गिरा के बुक्स फुक्स जला दिया गया. ये सब जब किया तब अलेक्जेंड्रिया का वो कल्चर, वो जो पढ़ाई वाला कल्चर है, दैट होल एकेडमिक कल्चर, that was associated with the whole paganism, it also got destroyed. फिर वहाँ पे even after that, I think that happened in 292 AD or 392 AD, I guess. I have to see, check. But उसके बाद खत्म नहीं हुआ उसके बाद भी. जैसे you must have remembered India में, I am always trying to draw the parallel because I want to show you how similar the events are, so that you get to know what to do from here. Okay, so जब 1198 AD में I think ये बख्तियार खिलजी ने नालंदा जलाया था. उसके बाद 1234 AD में एक तिब्बत से मॉन्क आए थे, वो बिहार में आए थे. तो जनरली जब खिलजी ने पूरा बिहार का एजुकेशन इकोसिस्टम और बुद्धिज्म खत्म किया, then Tibet se all those monks, they used to be very afraid to come down to Bihar. So what they used to do, they used to just stay in Nepal for a while, collect some books, make some copies, manuscripts, and then used to go back to Tibet. But this guy, Dharmaswami, his name was, he came and he described all those process, I mean destruction, okay, that was going on at that time. And that is one of the few sort of first-hand historical records that we have about the destruction around Nalanda. Okay, but वहाँ पे लिखते हैं कि ये पूरा पूरा जो मुस्लिम का इन्वेजन हो गया है, इसके वजह से यहाँ पे जो बिहार है यहाँ लोग पढ़ाई नहीं कर सकते, एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स रिकॉर्डेड. यहाँ पे भी सेरापिस का जो हुआ था उसके बाद अलेक्जेंड्रिया का लाइब्रेरी चला गया, फिर वो खत्म हो गया. बट नॉट क्वाइट, राइट? क्योंकि जो पढ़ने आएंगे वो तो फिर उसी जगह पे आएंगे, उसी जगह दे विल ट्राई टू एक्यूमुलेट. एंड इन द प्रोसेस जीनियस वाज बोर्न, a female genius, prodigy, whose name was Hypatia. Hypatia was an astronomer, philosopher, mathematician, and a pagan icon at that time. And she used to run like schools, or schools for dialogues as well as for teaching astronomy, etc. Now ये फिर इनको ये जो क्रिश्चियन जो उस टाइम पे थे उनसे ये माना नहीं गया, ठीक है. एंड देन the administrator of at that time was named Orestes. Okay, and Orestes had a nice like cordial friendship with Hypatia. तो ऑरेस्टिस को पहले ये लोग मारे, फिर उसके बाद हाइपेशिया को इन्होंने बहुत ही मतलब गंदे तरीके से दे assassinated Hypatia. And I would like to quote again from Catherine Nixie, The Darkening Age. And here she writes, um, quote, as soon as she stood on the, okay, so, quote, one day in March 415 AD, Hypatia set out from her home to go for her daily ride through the city. Suddenly, she found her way blocked by a multitude of believers in God, Christians. They ordered her to get down from her chariot. Knowing what had recently happened to her friend Orestes, she must have realized as she climbed down that her situation was a serious one. She cannot possibly have realized quite how serious. As soon as she stood on the street, the parabalini, under the guidance of a judge magistrate called Peter, who was a quote a perfect believer in all respects in Jesus Christ, unquote, searched around and seized the pagan woman. Then they dragged Alexandria's greatest living mathematician through the streets to a church. Once inside the church, they ripped the clothes from her body. Then, using broken pieces of pottery as blades, they flayed her skin from her flesh. Some say that while she still gasped for breath, they gouged out her eyes. Once she was dead, they tore her body into pieces and threw what was left of the luminous child of reason onto a pyre and burned her. तो बहुत ही गंदे तरीके से they assassinated Hypatia. Now, this way, I mean, the same treatment they were giving to pretty much all the pagan philosophers and whoever was promoting knowledge at that time. Because at that time, you know that Christians were very famous or infamous for being gavars, for uneducated, and they used to take pride in that, right? You must have heard about the phrase "ignorance is bliss." From where that maxim came from? It came from the Christian maxim. Ki ignorance is bliss. If you have faith, faith is enough. Inquisition, inquiry about the nature is bad. Inquiry about anything is bad. Okay, it's just like what Muslims are saying nowadays. Inquisition is bad. Anything other than faith is heretical. Anything other than Bible is heretical. Hence, you should not pursue those things. Okay, so all these classical icons like Homer, Virgil, and then Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they were basically heretical, right? They were against God. Poetry was basically prohibited for a long time, and I'll discuss all these things. So,
Vijitda,
haha,
yeah, Vijitda. So before you start your whole thing, just wanted to tell people who are watching in Eastern India, correct? So what is happening in Eastern India? So this book is there, if you can see. So what Vijitda is going to talk about is kind of a mask which is worn by the Christianity or the Christianism to actually show a different picture what they actually believe and do. Okay. So this mask that you see here, we are trying to uncover the mask of Christianity and Christianism, okay, through the enlightened works that we are going to talk and discuss about. Okay, we are going to quote many people. So keep in mind that whatever you see in front of you may not be the truth, and the truth lies between the mask and the real face. So we are actually uncovering the real face. So this is a symbolic representative of that lecture that we are going to hear today. So with that, you
right,
start the lecture. I'll be at the background, and I'll give you comments as when they come.
sure, sure.
Okay, you can start now.
Huh. So, as I'm saying, so once they killed pretty much all the big philosophers and the intellectual class of the Roman civilization, then they had this whole paradox. Now, how to propagate Christianity? Okay, the Philosophers were dead, but their work, those were still surviving and thriving. And because of that, no matter how best the Christian sort of disciples, these followers, or this cult was trying, it was still a shame to adopt Christianity, right? It was still a shame for a Roman, for a proud, educated, cultural, aristocratic Roman, right, which is any other Aam Aadmi at that point, for them to adopt Christianity, it was a matter of shame, because at that time it was just like कि यार मतलब जैसे for us, if someone want me to say कि भाई you convert from whatever, Bengali, or from Hinduism to, let's say, Pakistanism, okay, I would say bhai no, matlab I am a Bengali and I am very proud of my culture. I am proud of, let's say, to be born in a society where we can discuss freely the works of Rabindranath Tagore. Why would I go to a place like Pakistan, which is basically a mess and like a pretty much a gone place, right? So it was similar at that point. Ki, okay, like you guys are actually enforcing Christianism upon us, but what do you have to deliver, right? And still in the Roman mind, it was like, okay, these Christians are the same people who are burning the libraries in a temple. So okay, like you are vandalizing the temple, the murtis, that is fine, but with that you are also destroying the libraries. So fundamentally you are against education, and anything that makes us civil, anything that makes us educated, anything that makes us inquisitive. So what can Christianism deliver, for example, right? So this was a matter of shame for all the Christians, and right. So basically, it was at that time when they first started to dismiss all the classic Roman literature, and it was not enough. So they soon started to digest all these Greco-Roman literature. They started to create cheap copy of those literature. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But eventually, through centuries, what they did, they could build a huge library of their own, while uh, like a big library, a big sort of lineage of works, which would praise Christianity, and which would be very harsh and will be very critical of any other faith or any other work which is non-Christian. Okay, so right. So as I said, so in again in Catherine Nixie, there is this thing ki there's this the bishop named Basil. Basil basically is writing of some years after Hypatia's murder. He is writing an anxious address to young men, advising them on the right, quote unquote, right use of Greek literature. What do you mean by right use of Greek literature? Ki, okay, you go through those Greek literature, and but you know Greek literature is is not fully compliant with Christianism, right? So Basil is writing that these young readers, after going through this Greek literature, they should not surrender to these men once for all the rudders of your mind and follow them whithersoever they lead. Rather, accepting from them only that which is useful. You should know that which ought to be overlooked. Okay, so basically, this bishop named Basil, he's saying ki, you read those literature, and whatever is Christian compliant, you learn them, and whatever is non-compliant with Christianism, you overlook them. But then the problem was that in even in Basil's eyes, there was a lot of things to overlook, right? So for example, today in a world, we typically know. So whenever the Western academia is saying, ki, okay, the classical literature, right? Now in modern day, by classical literature, imply this whole Christian literature, so to say. But at that time, at the time of early Christianity, by classical literature they meant the Greco-Roman literature. Okay, So now, today in a world in which there was this uh, word classical hints at something revered to the point of dullness, it is hard to understand quite how alarming many of these works were to the Christians, right? Because the classical Greco-Roman literature, it dealt with a lot of things. It dealt with idolatry. It dealt with all kind of philosophies, starting from Socrates to Diogenes, right? Even the poets like Virgil, they had their own sort of philosophies. Then there were like sexual philosophies as well, Kam Sutra like philosophies. Okay, there were like sexual erotic poets as well. There were blasphemy about the very, like even the pagans, they used to make blasphemy of their own god, right? There were all kind of Greek tragedies, murder stories, mysteries, vanity, and most of these things were considered as sin in as per Christianity, and that is what made them so enjoyable, right? I mean, it is that sort of spice in those books that actually made them readable and enjoyable to the reader. But as per Christians, they were damnable. Okay, so for example, if you even Homer, right? If you read the Iliad, you will see ki there are these god Ares seduced by Aphrodite, right? And then all these sort of seductive stories. There were, for example, I read something. Um, yeah, there was this poet called Catullus who wrote something like Carmen 16, which was very much, so to say, I would say, very much provocative. Okay, and you can go and search about all these kind of classical Greek works. Okay, but then as per Christians, they were like, okay, how could one recite such filth? Okay, and then go on to church to read the Christian works, right? And they're asking how can Virgil as a poet and his work can go with the Gospels, or Cicero, for example, the guy who hugely criticized Christianity as being the cult and falsehood. How can Cicero go with the apostle, right? And they are saying they should not, and basically they should not drink up of Christ, and at the same time the cups of from the cups of devils. Okay, and so hence they started to censor a lot of such classical literature, so to say the Greco-Roman pagan literature. Okay, and and yeah, so then Basil is basically saying ki good Christians should entirely omit the bawdier classical works. If by chance your eye alighted on a classical passage that portrayed depraved men, then you must flee from them and stop up your ears. Okay, and then he goes on further to say ki wherever there is Ovidian naughtiness, means some form of, let's say, sensuous naughtiness, he is saying ki we shall not praise the poets. So let's say there is a poem which is talking in a very adulating way about women. So then this guy saying ki this is actually some sort of blasphemy and you should not praise the poet. Okay, so this is going on. And then there are some other works also that they started to censor. So for example, there was a Roman emperor himself who was very famous for his philosophy of, in modern day words, stoicism. So there's this stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius, right? And Marcus Aurelius write a lot about, let's say, so he was something like he used to practice celibacy, but when he's writing why you should practice celibacy, he is detailing out in a poetic way about, for example, intercourse. Okay, and for that reason, so he's prohibiting this sort of promiscuity, but because his writing was actually describing, let's say, in a poetic way about intercourse, he was also banned by Christianism. Okay, and then in an extended simile that would have been at home in that heathen Homer, so Basil, this guy, He therefore advocated caution that young men should read classics much in the manner that bees visit flowers. For the bees do not visit all the flowers without discrimination. Rather, having taken so much as is adapted to their needs, they let the rest go. Okay. So basically, here Basil is saying ki we have to censor much of the greatest Greco-Roman literature because they are nasty. Okay. Uh, and then, yeah, then the next kind of literature that was there that the Greco Romans created was about their gods, obviously, right? And especially there were many gods, and their writings were representing those many gods in many beautiful, equally diverse kind of language and poetry, right? So, which was, as per the Christianism, it was idolatry, polytheism, and hence they needed to censor that kind of literature as well. So that went on. They first started to say that many gods are utter absurdity, and far from them having omniscient and omnipresence, they were shamefully and disagreeably human. And because these gods are many and they are taking human forms, and they are weeping, they are squabbling, they are having sex, they are getting drunk, and they are behaving badly to everyone. Hence, these gods, these Greco-Roman gods, they need to be banned as well. So the Christian administration and these theologians, they started to ban the Greco-Roman gods as well. This was going on in parallel and after the biggest temples in the Greco-Roman society was destroyed. Okay, so so this was going on, and I can give you a few more examples. But after some time, what happened? After some time, what was happened was that they started to run out of literature, right? If because if they are banning most of the Greco-Roman works, then there is nothing left pretty much, right? So in order to counter that, they started to say ki yeah, education is not that much necessary, and I'm going to quote a few things from there. Um, Let me check. I want to quote something by Saint Augustine. So Saint Augustine was, wait a second. Uh, Need that quote here. Huh. So basically, huh. So at that time, because Christianism was against education, right? Um, hence, hence the idea was that first they had the feeling that we don't need to produce much literature. But then in the whole process, the Roman elites, they started to be sort of disillusioned with Christianism. Okay. So yeah, so out of all these exuberant illiteracy, there arose a problem, however. While storming the gates of heaven might be achieved with no education, the gates of the elite villas of Rome required a little more sophistication. Educated Romans and Greeks, such as Celsus, Porphyry, had long looked at the literature of Christianity with utmost disdain. So even at that time, when they were writing all these Christian proses and verses, overall Bible was not considered as the greatest achievement as a literature, and in fact it was written in simple words. Hence, the whole Roman elites used to look at it with disdain and with sheer snobbery. Okay, they used to think कि यार this is written in such a मतलब easy language. There is no ornamentation, figure of speech, or any other literary sort of um, nicety to it. How can it be the word of God? Okay, so because of that, Greek philosophers like Celsus, Porphyry, they started to say कि यार ये गवार लोगों का literature है. right? And writers such as Saint Augustine and Jerome knew it. So Saint Augustine was one of the very few first set of people in Christianity who understood the importance, the significance of this thing, the significance of knowledge and the significance of literature. And it is very likely that he had a great understanding of overall Greco-Roman classical literature as well. Okay, so he felt the compulsion. Saint Augustine felt the compulsion that we have to create our own literature. Okay, we have to create our own work that would stand tall, or even that can stand before the great authors and poets and writers produced by the Greco-Roman pagans. Okay, so yeah, so writers such as Saint Augustine and Jerome knew the importance of literature, and here the part of the problem was Bible itself. Not only what it said, but the way in which it said it. Today, robed in the glowing English of King James Version, it is hard to imagine the language of the Bible ever causing problems. So, first of all, when they say कि Bible is a revelation of God and all these things, you have to understand कि Bible का बहुत एडिशन निकला है. ठीक है, there have been many corrections and many additions and deletions and change in the language and all these things that have happened. And the latest sort of most famous English version, it was edited by King James of England. Okay, now, in the 14th century, it had no such antique grandeur. The Gospels of the Old Latin Bible were written in a distinctly demotic style, rich in grammatical solecism and the sort of words that grated on educated ears. The loss of meaning was negligible, and the ancient equivalent saying serviette rather than napkin. The loss of status was intolerable. If this was the word of God, then God seemed to speak with distinctly common accent. ओके, तो पहले मतलब बहुत ही इजी लैंग्वेज में बाइबल लिखा गया था, तो इसके वजह से ज्यादा ज्यादा स्प्रेड हुआ था. सो दैट इज गिवन, बट द पॉइंट इज जो रोमन एलिट है उनके नजर में ये गॉड का काम नहीं हो सकता था. ठीक है. Now, this Greco-Roman elite society had an acute ear for accents. Augustine grew up knowing that the grammatical error was more frowned on than moral error, and that one might be more despised for saying human beings rather than human beings, for example. Okay, so because grammatical errors were more frowned on than moral error, and these early version of Bible had a lot of like grammatical and otherwise errors and for example mistranslations. Okay, which were, for example, Mother Mary, right? So early Christians were saying, and still this is the view of mainstream Christianism, that Mary gave virgin birth to Jesus, right? But the very word virgin is a mistranslation. Okay, because they translated from Hebrew Bible to the Roman Bible, and in the process, uh, the word Kumari, right? I mean, young woman, it got mistranslated to virgin woman. That led to such a great sort of cults and thoughts कि Jesus got a virgin birth from Mother Mary, right? Um, so these sort of errors were there, mistranslations were there, grammatical errors were there in Bible, and that's why the elite Romans, they used to despise this. Okay, now now Augustine was well aware of this, and so he started to launch a defense of Bible. And so he's asking, why does it matter if one use the wrong word or the incorrect grammatical case? Everyone understood what was being said anyway, whatever words or cases it was said with. What did it matter when you were beseeching God to pardon your sins, whether the word ignosia should be pronounced with the third syllable long or short? Okay, and then Augustine is saying ki all these pronunciation or spelling, even if they are incorrect, it does not matter, because God will probably pardon all these grammatical sins, right? And we don't need the Roman aristocrat to forgive us, quote unquote, forgive us and our sins, right? Because above all, there is a God who is going to forgive us. And this simplicity of Christian texts repelled many who might otherwise have considered converting and shamed many who already had. To convert was, in the words of the telling Augustine phrase, to enter the intellectual world less of a Plato or a Pythagoras than of your concierge. The upper classes simply were not going to countenance that. And as long as they stood firm against Christianism, then many below them would too. This disdainful elite was the ramparts of a city that does not believe, a city of denial, right? So they are saying कि the Roman elites वो लोग मान नहीं रहे हैं. They are not ready to believe because they think their literature is extreme, their literature is excellent, while Christian Bible is inferior. उसमें grammatical error है, और फिर अगर कोई बंदा बोल भी रहा है, अगर कोई sermon भी दे रहा है, उसका मजाक उड़ाया जा रहा है, and all these things was going on, right? So Augustine at that time is writing कि यार ये जो elite class है ये तो मानने के लिए तैयार ही नहीं है. Hence, it was painfully obvious to the educated Christians that these intellectual achievements of these insane pagans were vastly superior to their. ठीक है, तो पहले ये क्रिश्चियनों ने इन्होंने मान लिया कि यार जो पेगन अचीवमेंट है टिल नाउ, दिस इज वास्टली सुपीरियर टू अस. फॉर ऑल दैट डिक्लेरेशन ऑन द विकेडनेस ऑफ पेगन लर्निंग, few educated Christians could bring themselves to discard it completely. जैसा अब इंडिया में होता है, राइट, कि ब्राह्मणिज्म ब्राह्मणिज्म बोला जा रहा है, बट जो भी, अगर तुम हिंदू लिटरेचर को ब्राह्मणी लिटरेचर भी कह दो, then you still don't have that class of literature, right? Among the Christians or among the Muslims in India. तो तुम उसे ब्राह्मणिकल लिटरेचर कह सकते हो, बट अंटिल अनलेस यू हैव दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ पैरेलल लिटरेचर, यू कैन नॉट काउंटर देम. सो इसीलिए अभी इंडिया में क्या चल रहा है, अभी इंडिया में आप लोग देखेंगे कि काफी सारा संस्कृत में जैसे बाइबल लिखा जा रहा है, संस्कृत श्लोक निकाला जा रहा है, which from the Bible, right? ये लोग फिर अच्छे अच्छे लॉन्ग वर्सेस पोएट्री ये सब लिख रहे हैं. बाइबल का इन्होंने हर एक लैंग्वेज में ऑलरेडी बुक्स निकाल दिए हैं. सो दे आर क्रिएटिंग ए पैरेलल स्ट्रक्चर, पैरेलल कोट अनकोट स्पिरिचुअल स्ट्रक्चर, जो सभी लैंग्वेज में हो रहा है. और ये लिफलेट के थ्रू, कोई ऑटो रिक्शा के पीछे ये लिख लिख के इसका प्रचार कर रहे हैं. ये आपको दिखाई देगा, कैलकाटा में दिखाई देगा आज के जमाने में. So they are creating this parallel literature, and they are simultaneously critiquing the Hindu literature as the Brahminical literature. और जेएनयू में यही चल रहा है, ठीक है, जो उस टाइम पे सेंट ऑगस्टिन के टाइम पे रोम पे हो रहा था. तो अभी जैसे कैलकाटा है, वो जैसे सेंट ऑगस्टिन के टाइम का रोम के जैसा है. Okay, so for all their declarations on the wickedness of pagan learning, few educated Christians could bring themselves to discard it completely. Augustine, despite disdaining those who cared about correct pronunciation, leaves us in no doubt that he himself knows how to pronounce everything perfectly. तो Saint Augustine खुद में अपने आप में एक स्कॉलर थे, but in countless passages, both implicitly and explicitly, his knowledge is displayed. He was a Christian, but a Christian with classical dash, and he deployed his classical knowledge in the service of Christianity. तो एक नॉलेजेबल स्कॉलर बंदा था जो क्रिश्चियनिज्म में कन्वर्ट हो गया था, और इसीलिए वो क्रिश्चियनिज्म के फॉर बात कर रहा था. ही वाज फॉर क्रिश्चियनिटी, एंड ही वाज स्टार्टेड writing letters and creating literature in the service of Christianity. The great biblical scholar Jerome, who described the style of sections of the Bible as rude and repellent, never freed himself from his love of classical literature, suffered from nightmares in which he was accused of being a Caesarian and not a Christian. Right? तो ऐसे भी जेरोम के जैसे भी स्कॉलर भी थे, जिनको ये लिटरली इम्प्लीकेट किया जाता था कि तुम तो क्रिश्चियन हो ही नहीं, because you know so much classical Greco-Roman literature and you are so much Caesarian, you cannot be a Christian. And so in part from the self-interest, in part of this actual interest, Christianity started to absorb the literature of the heathens into itself. So this was probably the first recorded history जहां पे प्रोसेस ऑफ एप्रोप्रिएशन एंड प्रोसेस ऑफ डाइजेशन स्टार्टेड, कि जो पेगन लिटरेचर है उसको क्रिश्चियन लिटरेचर में अनाउंस कर देते हैं, मतलब कॉपी कर लेते हैं, फिर उसको डाइजेस्ट करके क्रिश्चियन लिटरेचर बोल देते हैं. Cicero soon sat alongside the Psalters after all. Most of those who felt most awkward about their classical learning made best use of it. The Christian writer Tertullian might have disdained classical learning in asking what the Athens had to do with Jerusalem, but he did so in highly classical style, with the metonymy of Athens standing in for philosophy and then prodding rhetorical question. तो यहाँ पे फिर रेटोरिक आ जाता है जो हम लोग पिछले एपिसोड में डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि दिस क्रिश्चियन राइटर टर्ट्यूलियन ही इज आस्किंग कि यार एथेंस हैज नथिंग टू डू विद जेरूसलम, right? But in the process, he is adopting the very Greco-Roman style of rhetoric in order to support Christianity, right? In order to proclaim his support and it is his favor for Christianity. Hello, yes, such a detailed analysis of the origin, spread of Christianity, kudos to your voracious reading, analytical mind. Thank you, thanks a lot. And yeah, please share this video, share our channel, because we are planning to come up with a lot of such series in the coming days. तो ये तो चलता रहेगा. इसका हम लोग 11-12 एपिसोड बनाएंगे, 15 तक भी जा सकता है. एंड देन वी विल सिमिलरली आई थिंक और एक दो टॉपिक पे चालू होने वाला है अबाउट बंगाली हिस्ट्री, प्रोबेबली द मेडिएवल बंगाली हिस्ट्री. उस पर एक सीरीज इसी चैनल में आ रहा है. तो प्लीज स्प्रेड आवर लेक्चर्स एंड आवर चैनल and tell everyone to sort of subscribe because we need to grow fast. थोड़ा स्कॉलरली चैनल है तो थोड़ा शायद सब्सक्राइबर बढ़ाने में प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, बट दैट्स व्हाई वी नीड योर हेल्प कि आप इसको थोड़ा कॉलेजेस के स्टूडेंट्स में, थोड़ा यूथ में फैलाओ, ताकि ताकि ज़्यादा डायलॉग ये सब चर्चा हो सके और लोगों के पास ठीक से मैसेज जा सके, एटलीस्ट टू द स्कॉलर्स, so that they don't get confused when they are, let's say, if there is a PhD guy sitting in JNU जिसको बोला जा रहा है कि एक प्रो क्रिश्चियन थीसिस लिखो, उसके दिमाग में ये क्वेश्चन आए कि यार मुझे जो बोला जा रहा है दैट इज प्रो क्रिश्चियन एंड एंटी हिंदू in a way, right? Because they need to understand if their work is pro Christianity or it is helping the spread of Christianity in India, right? तो इसके लिए यूथ में हमारा चैनल का प्रचार करना थोड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट है और इसी एम्बिशन से हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं. सो प्लीज स्प्रेड आवर वर्ड्स, प्लीज स्प्रेड आवर गॉस्पेल, okay? And yeah, write about our lecture, critique us, tell us what to do next. If there are, if you can give us more historical records, क्योंकि ये इम्पोर्टेंट है. मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूँ, इंडिया में अभी से हमें क्रिश्चियनिज्म को अटैक करना चालू करना होगा बिफोर इट गेट्स टू लेट, ठीक है? क्योंकि काफी जगह आजकल चाइना में दिखाई दे रहे हैं, चाइना वाले ये सब कास्ट क्लास ये सब लेके बात करने लगे हैं. और ये जो कास्टिज्म का जितना चर्चा होगा, और रैदर कास्ट का जितना चर्चा होगा, इट इज गोइंग टू असिस्ट क्रिश्चियनिज्म मोर देन इट असिस्ट इस्लाम, ठीक है? तो इसलिए थोड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है कि हम लोग थोड़ा तेज फैले और हमारे चैनल के जो चर्चा है वो थोड़ा ज़्यादा फैले. I was discussing with my Bengali colleague friend the distinction in the Advaitic philosophy of Sri Adi Shankara Christianism yesterday. She agreed that the original sin, self-flagellating. This is the first message probably. So I don't know if Bhupenda is here. We can take a short break and discuss this part actually.
Yes, yes, yes. I am here. I am actually just watching the chat. Yeah, actually, it is very important. I thought के
ये क्या बोल रहे हैं?
okay, he
मैं
is
थोड़ा
saying. Let
लेक्चर
me.
के जोन में हूँ, थोड़ा बता
Okay,
दीजिएगा. हाँ.
okay. So what he is saying that Sri Harsha was talking to a Bengali friend of his. Okay, and they were discussing about the Advaitic philosophy of Sri Adi Shankaracharya and Christianism yesterday, and she agreed that the original sin, flagellating, those
Flagellation, हाँ.
kinds of act, and the nature of Christianism is anti-humanity. She thinks that Adi Shankara himself has uh, authored Christianism,
Authorized.
authorized Christianism, Islamic ways of praying as everyone has same Atman. I did point her to the second one. Yeah, correct. The problem with a complex philosophy like
Yeah,
that we
I
have,
did point her though.
hmm,
I did point to her though what?
the second number point, okay, regarding anti-humanity part,
अच्छा अच्छा.
this anti-humanity part,
No, ये
because
वाला
she is,
point हमने discuss किए थे, right? In the last
yes,
lecture we
yes,
discussed something,
yes,
which was
but
that
like
कि हाँ.
actually that person was saying that okay, because Adi Shankara has said that everybody has Atman as a universal principle. So if an Abrahamic faith is doing something, correct, then that should be also good. Okay. So correct, he says that okay, he has authorized Christianism and Islamic ways of praying as everyone has same Atman. So the lady is actually doing kind of like a false equivalency, that if Adi Shankara has said that everybody has Atman, and if let's say an Abrahamic person is doing some bad things, that is sanctioned by the Atman. So good and bad has nothing to do with it. Whatever they are doing is good because everybody has Atman. So that's kind of false equivalency that people draw.
No, so it goes even deeper than that, right? मतलब ठीक है, अगर भक्तिवाद वाला प्रेइंग वाला जो पार्ट है कि बोल सकते हैं कि हाँ, दैट द लॉ ऑफ कर्मा विल एडवर्सली इम्पैक्ट द साइकी ऑफ ए पर्सन एंड देयर नेक्स्ट लाइफ एज लॉन्ग एज. हाँ, मतलब ठीक है, नाउ शी कैन आस्क कि यार नेक्स्ट लाइफ क्या बोल रहे हो, व्हाई शुड आई बिलीव इन नेक्स्ट लाइफ, राइट? क्रिश्चियनिज्म इज प्रीच्ड विद ऑल इट्स फीचर्स. सी, यहाँ पे वो क्वेश्चन कर सकती है कि नेक्स्ट लाइफ किसे पता है. इससे अच्छा ये नहीं है कि मैं क्रिश्चियनिज्म में यकीन कर लूं व्हिच टॉक्स अबाउट लीनियर टाइम, बिकॉज लीनियर टाइम इज एटलीस्ट परसीवेबल टाइम, राइट? बट यहाँ पे एक प्रॉब्लम है जो हमने लास्ट लेक्चर पे डिस्कस किए थे, इफ यू रिमेंबर. लास्ट लेक्चर पे हमने आइडिया फॉर्म डिस्कस किए थे. वी डिस्कस्ड कि लेट्स से व्हेन प्लेटो इज टॉकिंग अबाउट द आइडिया फॉर्म, राइट? सो पहले रिटोरिक था कि
Uh,
वी कैन
yeah, Sri
कन्विंस
Harsha,
समवन.
you can actually
हाँ,
join. I think you are a member. So if you go to the members, the post we share, na, in the members only post, you will see the link. So you can join. So just let me show you. So where you will be able to
अभी
find
ज्वाइन,
it.
हाँ अभी ये डिस्कस कर लेते हैं, बाद में क्यों
Yeah.
डिस्कस
You
करें.
can join. So let me just share my screen. Or anyway, we'll do one thing. I think let's share the link here itself that people can join. Okay, that should not be an issue. So let me post it. So Sri Harsha, you can actually join. I have pinned it here. So you can just click on the link and join. Yeah, now Shabtoshi, correct. This is something important discussion that we are having. So like we are not a school curriculum that we have to finish the syllabus. Okay, if something relevant comes, which is going to like correct, the person is having a discussion with somebody, and then again we are talking about the Christianism part and the Advaitin philosophy part. So it is not very irrelevant to us, but yeah, it's a bit of a diversion, but it's
बट व्हाट
overall
वी आर
topic the
गोइंग टू
same.
आर्ग्यू राइट नाउ इज वेरी
Hmm.
इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज ये सब लोग मतलब क्रिश्चियनिज्म ऐसे ही बोलते हैं ना, अगर भक्तिवाद है तो हम लोगों के पास भी तो प्रे ही तो कर रहे हो. इससे ज्यादा मतलब इससे दिस इज इक्विवेलेंट ना कि तुम प्रे कर रहे हो या नहीं कर रहे हो.
Yeah,
हाँ, नमस्ते.
we have Sri Harsha with
नमस्ते
us.
श्रीहर्ष साहब.
Hi, Bijeet.
Yeah,
हाय.
Thank
namaste.
Namaste. So I think the conversation I was having was generally on the current conversion and all this atmosphere. So the thing that came up is she mentioned, I mean, the girl, that see, similar to how Adi Shankara actually said, all of us, all of these existing deities, they're equal. We should not fight. I mean, she had a very simplified view, simplistic view. It's not like nuanced. So all she said was, देखो, Adi Shankara himself in the Advaitic philosophy said that uh, everyone uh, forget the body. Uh, everyone has the same inside of us. So that is we call Atman, right? So so basically, the way you pray. See, she used the word the way you pray shouldn't matter. So in the spiritual realm, so so what I mean, I can understand, I do empathize with the view that hey, you can pray but you can't simply pray and
The
leave, like
argument
I told
doesn't
her.
stop there. The argument doesn't stop there.
Yeah, I said that Islam actually and Christianity, they are not like just you pray in a certain way and then leave. Rest of the day you live a different life. So it's like you have to stick to all the either it's a package, take it or leave it. You cannot use a piece like it's not a
You
piecemeal.
cannot you cannot pick and choose.
But I believe this Advaitic or Vedantic thing, right? That somehow has it's been morphed and used as in a different way to actually like a parasite to the brain of Hindus. We haven't got a proper understanding of it or nuanced view of it, and we are like suffering from mental disorder. Like it would have been a great thing to really understand and practice it. So the one good explanation I had was from Rajiv Malhotra, like 8 years ago. I was doing some videos, short form videos of his. I used to post on my channel, and I used to also give it for their foundation, Infinity Foundation. So at that time, I came across his experience that in New Jersey there was a guru in 1990s. There was a Jewish guy. So who said that I want to actually become a Hindu? Can you give me a new name? I want a mantra, Diksha. So basically, so the guru, out of ignorance, was saying that he didn't know, even he didn't ask is are you a Christian, are you a Jew. He said, no John, you can pray to Jesus and just practice whatever I am telling you. So without even trying to attempting to understand what is Christianity, how does it differ, is it compatible,
Exactly.
can you, yeah. So yeah, I think you understood. So he questioned the guru saying,
So I have something to say here, right?
yeah,
तो यहाँ पे आर्गुमेंट चालू होता है कि यार वी आर ऑल्सो प्रेइंग, अ क्रिश्चियन इज ऑल्सो प्रेइंग, वी आर प्रेइंग टू सम गॉड और सम ब्रह्म, क्रिश्चियंस आर प्रेइंग टू सम गॉड, देयर गॉड, क्रिश्चियन गॉड. तो फर्क क्या हो सकता है? या फिर मे
exactly,
बी क्रिश्चियनिटी सुपीरियर क्योंकि उनका वो दिखता है कि क्या क्या तो बिल्ड किया है, वॉट एवर. नाउ द फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल द यूरोप दैट यू सी right now in modern age, it is because they could discard Christianity. मतलब पूरा पैकेज उन्होंने जब छोड़ा उसके बाद जो इवॉल्व हुआ, दैट इज द मॉडर्न यूरोप. उससे पहले इफ यू सी प्रोबेबली इंडिया, मतलब इवन 18th सेंचुरी में इंडिया का जो पिक्चर दिखता है, यूरोप का जो पिक्चर दिखता है, इंडिया देखने में अच्छा लगता है इन दोज, इवन दोज ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट पिक्चर्स, राइट. सो वो एक पॉइंट है. नाउ टॉकिंग अबाउट फिलोसफी कि यार गॉड भी है, सोल भी है, सोल के साथ आत्मा क्या क्या फर्क है, ये सब क्वेश्चन आता रहता है. तो पहला क्वेश्चन टू स्टार्ट द काउंटर इज लाइक, लेकिन वो गॉड है किधर? उनका गॉड तो वो ऊपर वाला है ना. नाउ व्हिच वे इज अप? दुनिया
I
घूम रहा
think
है
I think
ना. ना सो
yeah,
ये पहला यहाँ से चालू होता है. आई एम आस्किंग दिस क्वेश्चन व्हाई, बिकॉज it is the Christian morality is external morality, it is scriptural morality. It does not care about कि तुम्हारे अंदर क्या है, मतलब what spontaneous morality you have. It does not care about it. It does not care about the spontaneity within yourself. अरे ये आया कहाँ से? मतलब पहले तो और भी ये रेडिकल जिहाद टाइप आइडियोलॉजी था, ये धीरे धीरे पॉलिश हुआ है. पॉलिश कैसे हुआ है? So you know, जैसे प्लेटो था, and we have discussed it in the previous lecture. I am going to discuss it again. प्लेटो ने एक आइडिया फॉर्म दिया था. तो बेसिकली व्हेन ये स्क्रीन थोड़ा हटा दीजिए, इट इज डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग मी.
Okay, 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 okay.
श्रीहर्ष को देख के बात करते हैं. तो बेसिकली प्लेटोस का जो आइडिया फॉर्म था वो एक, इट वाज ट्राइंग टू सरपास समथिंग व्हिच इज द आइडिया ऑफ रेटोरिक. रेटोरिक क्या था कि पहले एक ग्रीक सॉर्ट ऑफ वकील फिलोसोफर कुछ भी था, वो सिर्फ अच्छे से विथ हिज कंप्लीट लाइक गुड ओरेशन स्किल ही यूज्ड टू विन अ लॉट ऑफ आर्गुमेंट्स एंड केसेस. ठीक है, लेकिन रिटोरिक का प्रॉब्लम ये होने लगा कि काफी टाइम मिस जजमेंट और इनजस्टिस होने लगा. ठीक है, कि एक बार युद्ध हुआ था कहीं पे, कोई आइलैंड जीत लिया था ये रोमन ने, एंड देन थ्रू रिटोरिक लोग, जैसे आजकल ट्विटर में होता है राइट, लोग एक दूसरे पे इतना चिल्लाने लगे कि उसका एग्जीक्यूशन का ऑर्डर दिया गया. नेक्स्ट डे दिस फिलोसोफर्स दे वोक अप एंड दे वर क्वाइट परप्लेक्स्ड कि यार रिटोरिक की वजह से हम लोग, ये तो मतलब दिस इज मिसगिविंग ऑफ जस्टिस. तो उन्होंने लोग भेज के फिर वो प्रोसिक्यूशन रोका. ऐसे काफी एक दो बार होने के बाद दे ट्राई टू कम अप विथ something which is beyond rhetoric. Then Plato came up with, then Socrates tried to say कि यार तुम लोगों को कुछ पता नहीं है, ठीक है, you don't know anything, even I don't know anything, but at least I know कि I don't know anything, so I am wiser than you, in fact I am the wisest, ठीक है. तो वो तो थोड़ा निहिलिस्टिक था, बट वहां उससे फिर सोक्रेटिस को जब मारा गया, प्लेटो केम अप विद द आइडिया ऑफ फॉर्म. आइडिया ऑफ फॉर्म क्या होता है कि जैसे मेरे सामने फोन है एंड आई एम सीइंग कि आई एम सेइंग ओके दिस इज रेक्टेंगुलर, राइट. प्लेटो इज सेइंग कि ओके इट, you are calling it rectangular. Rectangle is something which is ideal, which has a form which is transcendental. और हम लोग कोई भी चीज को जो जज करते हैं अबाउट द ट्रूथ, अबाउट जस्टिस, अबाउट ब्यूटी, ये सारे वी कंपेयर इट विद सम इथीरियल ट्रांसेंडेंटल FORM फॉर्म, एंड दैट फॉर्म इज बेसिकली द गुड. और उसके रिस्पेक्ट में हम लोग अपना जो सोसाइटी है, अपना जो सेंस ऑफ जस्टिस है, उसको फिर हम कंपेयर करके देखते हैं कि जितना वो उसके पास होगा उतना वो ट्रूथफुल होगा, उतना ब्यूटीफुल होगा, उतना जस्ट होगा. So this is the idea of form, but it is, ये basically पाइथागोरस से लिया गया था. But this form, इसमें एक exteriority है. Probably this guy got मतलब persuaded Pythagoras. Probably he came to India. इसका कुछ हमें records मिलता है. Probably he got persuaded by the idea of Upanishad and Vedanta, जहाँ पे वो basically वही की form, ideality, non-dualism इस पे चर्चा कर रहा था. यहाँ से वो आइडियलिज्म से प्लेटो ने फॉर्म उठाया, बट फॉर्म का प्रॉब्लम यह है कि इट टॉक्स अबाउट समथिंग एक्सटीरियर व्हिच इज बियॉन्ड अस. तो इसलिए मैं बोल रहा था काफी सारे रफाल का, जैसे रफाल का एक पेंटिंग देखोगे, द स्कूल ऑफ एथेंस प्रोबेबली, वहां पे प्लेटो बेसिकली ऊपर दिखा रहा है कि देयर इज समथिंग ऊपर, मतलब देयर इज समथिंग बियॉन्ड ट्रांसेंडेंटल टू ऑल दिस फिजिकल शेप्स एंड थिंग्स दैट वी सी अराउंड अस. यहाँ पे एरिस्टोटल बोलता है कि उसका जो डिसाइपल था कि नहीं, इट शुड कम फ्रॉम विदिन अस. तो एरिस्टोटल नीचे दिखा रहा है उंगली, ठीक है. तो ये जो कॉन्ट्रास्ट है, यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम क्या है, प्लेटो और एरिस्टोटल बोल रहा है कि ये हमसे आ रहा है, आइडिया ऑफ जस्टिस, आइडिया ऑफ स्पिरिट. लेकिन ये तो अलग स्कूल ऑफ थॉट के हिसाब से देखा जाने लगा. दे कुड नॉट कंबाइन दिस टू. जहाँ पे शंकराचार्य आते हैं एंड ही इज सेइंग कि ठीक है, एक ब्रह्म है, एक आत्मन है, एंड जो आत्मन है वो ब्रह्म के साथ नॉन डुअल है. इट इज बेसिकली एज इफ, मतलब डिफरेंट साइड ऑफ द सेम कॉइन. ये जो यूनिफिकेशन है और ब्रह्मन एंड आत्मन, ये शायद ये इसमें जो हमारा जो फिलोसफी है, वैदिक फिलोसफी है, वो थोड़ा ग्रेको रोमन फिलोसफी को सरपास कर जाता है. क्योंकि फिर इसमें ये आ जाता है, ठीक है, देयर एग्जिस्ट समथिंग ट्रांसेंडेंटल, वहां से शायद ट्रूथ, जस्टिस, ब्यूटी आ सकता है, बट इट एग्जिस्ट विद इन अस बिकॉज वी आर दैट, राइट. तत्त्वमसि. तो जो तुम्हारा आइडिया ऑफ जस्टिस, ट्रूथ, ब्यूटी आता है, वो तुम्हारे अंदर से भी आता है, और उससे ये पूरा जगत बना हुआ. एंड यहाँ पे ग्रेको रोमन आइडियोलॉजी, मतलब एटलीस्ट जो रोमन पेगन आइडियोलॉजी है, वो थोड़ा पीछे हो जाता है ना. जब क्रिश्चियनिटी आता है, क्रिश्चियनिटी पहले इन सबको डिस्कार्ड करता है कि ये सब तो पेगन लोग हैं, इनके मानेंगे नहीं. बट देन दे स्टार्टेड टू प्ले विद प्लेटोज आइडिया ऑफ फॉर्म, जहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं कि ठीक है, कहाँ गॉड एग्जिस्ट कहाँ करता है, गॉड हमारे सबसे ऊपर एग्जिस्ट करता है. वो ऊपर वाला जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, हेवन में कहीं बैठा हुआ है, एंड ही इज एक्सटीरियर, राइट. ही इज बियॉन्ड ऑल दिस फिजिकल मेस दैट वी आर लिविंग इन. तो वहां से हमें देख रहा है, और वहां से उसका जस्टिस का आइडिया निकलता है, राइट, कि गॉड इज गिविंग अस जस्टिस, God is giving us Jesus Christ. God is giving us someone who can work towards the atonement of our sin.
So
तो
everything comes from
इस तरह
without.
से, हाँ, इस तरह से जैसे मोरालिटी को एक्सटर्नलाइज कर दिया गया थ्रू सम स्क्रिप्चर, एक्सटर्नल मोरालिटी, तो वो अंदर से चला गया. नाउ द पॉइंट इज कि जब तुम मोरालिटी को एक्सटर्नलाइज कर दोगे, यू क्रिएट ए स्प्लिट विद इन यू. क्योंकि बाहर एक एक्सटर्नल स्क्रिप्चर है विच इज प्रिस्क्राइबिंग यू सम मोरालिटी, and then something within you which is telling you, it's like you are telling yourself what morality should be. यहाँ पे एक split create होता है, and this split, this schism is something that can be exploited by these Abrahamic ideologies. और ये बार बार होता है this. मैं इनफैक्ट स्प्लिट पे काफी सारा चीजें लिख भी रहा हूँ कि स्प्लिट से जैसे अब्राहमिज्म घुसता है. it's just like a whatever, right, through which you can penetrate. You need to create that hole, ठीक है. और यही स्प्लिट है. यहाँ से अब्राहमिज्म निकल सकता है, मार्क्सिज्म घुस सकता है, यहाँ से यहाँ पे घुस सकता है तुम्हारा जो आजकल वोकिज्म है, कोई भी आइडेंटिटी पॉलिटिक्स है. कि तुम जो हो नहीं वो तुम्हें समझाया जा रहा है कि ये तुम्हारे लिए सही है। इसमें रूरल अर्बन डिवाइड क्रिएट किया जा सकता है, आइडेंटिटी पॉलिटिक्स खेला जा सकता है, नेशन क्रिएट किया जा सकता है। तो सो दिस इज व्हाट आई थिंक कि व्हाट इज द मेन डिफरेंस बिटवीन हिंदुइज्म एंड these external sort of moralities.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I think for a more simplistic mind, right? They don't want to get into. I mean, I'm talking about a layman who's just like anyone you see on the road. Like you can't, if you just. I mean, no, I can't determine what whether they are layman or not. But I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying. 80% of the people they just go by the daily chores, and so I think they are exploiting the whether whether the Dravidian is, I mean, more
Right,
Christian
right,
oriented thing, or they are using this like a judo, where you use the opponent's power to actually put them down, twist it, and
right,
then
right.
use it against you, and then use your children, everything. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what is the
No,
content of your.
I think इसका जो काटने का सबसे आसान तरीका यही है, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल टॉक अबाउट द स्पॉन्टेनिटी, कि तुम जो हो उससे हटने की कोशिश मत करो, बिकॉज मोरालिटी इज समथिंग दैट, मतलब दैट डजंट नीड एनी वर्ड्स टू बी रिवील्ड। ठीक है,
Correct.
मोरालिटी को कोई वर्ड्स की जरूरत नहीं है टू रिवील इटसेल्फ विद इन यू। ये
That's
पहला
what I
पॉइंट है
mentioned actually.
कि whatever spontaneous morality is there within you, it is beyond words and you should respect it। मन की whatever, इसकी बात सुनो अंदर जो हो रहा है। दूसरा पॉइंट ये है कि मेकिंग प्राउड पीपल, ये जो हमारे जिम्मीहुड धिम्मीहुड जो कोलोनियलिज्म आया है, इसी के लिए हम लोगों के अंदर से प्राइड चला गया है। और जब एक बंदे के अंदर से प्राइड निकल जाता है, वो फिर क्रिश्चियन कन्वर्शन का रास्ता खोल देता है। So if you make your country and the countrymen and everyone around you very proud people, Christianity will be banished from the land। जब तुम लोगों को सर्वाइल बनाने लगोगे, उसी के थ्रू फिर ऐसे क्रिश्चियनिटी जैसा एब्सर्डिटी घुसेगा। इवन द एब्सर्डिज्म इटसेल्फ, निहिलिज्म, एब्सर्डिज्म, ये सब किस लिए है? यू नो, तुम्हारा प्रत्यक्ष है, राइट? इट इज अ डायरेक्ट एक्सपीरियंस दैट टेल यू दैट वी आर नॉट निहिलिस्टिक। वी नो वी आर नॉट निहिलिस्टिक। बट अगर कोई यूरोप में कोई एक लिटरेचर क्रिएट करता है, जॉन पॉल सार्त्रे हो गया या फिर अल्बर्ट कामू हो गया, who is talking about nihilism and absurdism, you know this is not true। So if they are trying to convince you through words, you know कि this is jugglery with words। These are just like old and new testament that these guys are trying। ये अपने अंदर जो प्रत्यक्ष है उसको जब रिस्पेक्ट करने लगोगे तो ये स्क्रिप्चरल मोरालिटी, एक्सटर्नल मोरालिटी, ये हट जाएगा। सो दिस इज द वे टू काउंटर इट। नहीं तो
Yeah,
ऐसा
I
ही
think
होने लगेगा, मतलब नहीं तो
certain
अंदर
level of.
क्वेश्चन जैसे, हाँ हाँ, निहिलिस्टिक मूवी आने लगेगा तो लोग फिर एक दूसरे को मारने लगे, खुद को मारने लगेंगे। वेस्ट में ये काफी जगह हो रहा है। दे आर जस्ट सेंडिंग ए ट्वीट कि लाइक इफ दिस आई एम गोइंग टू किल देम, और जाके गोली चला रहे हैं, राइट? दिस इज निहिलिस्टिक।
Yeah, I I can see that what you're saying. I can see that very much in action.
राइट।
Yeah, yeah, and regarding making people proud of their, uh, I'm not. I won't use the word culture and all, but at
No,
least
forget everything,
invoke their.
forget culture, regionalism, proud about yourself, proud about being a man with some values। It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
as
with
simple as that।
values. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what? I
Okay.
mean, I just want
One
one
more thing.
last
Yeah. Go
question.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to.
No. No.
So
Go ahead. Go
okay,
ahead.
this is the question on children. Give me three top points like which would actually help uh, in the it doesn't matter Hindu or
So which part of India you are from?
from southern part, south,
Okay, and
eastern, Andhra.
so basically one thing is you take a Mahabharata और महाभारत लेके कुछ वर्सेस बच्चे को पढ़ने के लिए बोलो। वो मोटा बुक जब दिखता है ना, दो चीजें होता है, वो बुक का जो डर है वो खत्म होता है, और दूसरा पॉइंट ये होता है बुक जब वो पेज पलटने लगेगा और वर्ड्स थोड़ा उसे बोलो कि पढ़ पढ़ के सुनाए, तो उससे फिर स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक खत्म हो जाता है। और जब अपने इंडियन लैंग्वेज में कोई बंदे का स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक खत्म होता है, वो फिर अंग्रेजी में भी स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक नहीं करेगा। ठीक है, सो दिस इज वन वे टू डू इट कि जस्ट टेक अ महाभारत एंड टेल हिम और हर टू बेसिकली स्टार्ट रीडिंग इट एंड साइड। बेसिकली आप बैठे रहो और उससे सुनो कि वो कैसे पढ़ रहा है, क्या कर रहा है, उसे भी आनंद आएगा और फिर वो एक स्कॉलर बंदा बनेगा। ये तो पहला पॉइंट है ही। दूसरा पॉइंट ये है कि हाँ, थोड़ा एजुकेटेड बनाना है कि यार ये हुआ है, ठीक है, दिस इज योर आइडेंटिटी, ये तुम्हारे साथ हुआ है, डोंट फॉल फॉर दिस सर्विलिटी, बी ए प्राउड पर्सन, बट यू नो योर हिस्ट्री की दिस हैज हैपेंड टू यू। तो कोई अगर आइडेंटिटी पॉलिटिक्स, पीटी पॉलिटिक्स में लाने की कोशिश कर रहा है, इसमें मत रहो, बट अपना एक कम्युनिटी बना के रखो, ठीक है। यू हैव टू मेक हिम और हर अंडरस्टैंड कि जो बाहर वाला है उसके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है, मतलब व्हाट काइंड ऑफ लिटरेचर दे आर गोइंग थ्रू। यू कंपेयर एनी हिंदू लिटरेचर विद द लिटरेचर फ्रॉम कुरान, या फिर ये सब जो लिटरेचर है, यहाँ से फिर उसे क्लैरिटी आएगा, और फिर कोई उसे फिर धोखा नहीं दे सकता कि हमारे बुक में ये लिखा हुआ है, वो लिखा हुआ है। सो यहाँ से जब प्राइड आएगा, फिर वहां से वो मिट नहीं सकता। यू गिव द बेसिक क्वेश्चंस कि वर्जिन वर्थ हो सकता है क्या, ये वर्जिन वर्थ बोल रहे हैं, और ये वर्जिन इटसेल्फ इज अ मिस ट्रांसलेशन फ्रॉम द हिब्रू बाइबल। सो फ्यू फैक्ट्स अबाउट देयर रिलीजियोसिटी, फिर कोई उसे बुद्धू नहीं बना सकता, बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट नोइंग द फैक्ट। सो दिस इज अबाउट, आई थिंक दिस इज अबाउट कल्चर, राइट। और दूसरा तीसरा पॉइंट यही है कि मैथ्स अच्छे से सिखाना, ये तो बोलने का ये तो ऑब्वियसली सब लोग ही करते हैं। कोई म्यूजिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट सिखा सकते हैं, दिस इज द वे टू बिल्ड इट, राइट। ऑल दीज पेगन प्रैक्टिसेस, एज सिंपल एज दैट, सारे जो पेगन प्रैक्टिसेस है वो सिखाओ, एंड देन आई थिंक या इट विल बी गुड।
I think let them
This is my
be
suggestion.
invested in in themselves and believe in their common sense.
Right, right.
Not
See,
yeah.
one thing I would like to highlight, what I asked the question by Sri Harsha, is that children should have a like activity where they actually interact with the book or instrument. So that instrument, the hand-eye coordination, is very important for the brain's growth and also for the child's growth. So, like now, correct, now you will see toys are made to actually they can break, they can unbreak, they can make it. Correct. So this is a very primal psychology, okay, of like human child's growth. That whatever toys, whatever they do, they need to interact with that specific thing, object. Okay, it can be a book which will going to imbibe his mind and his consciousness and his imagination. Again, like musical instruments or some other kind of toys, some kind of activities that they do, that is actually create the kind of brain which will actually make sure that they develop critical thinking. When mind and body is interacting and trying to play with that what is in his mind, that is going to create a kind of a combination which will make sure that they will be able to ask questions and ask critical questions, why it is there, why it is breaking, how I am fixing it. That is important, that people actually like don't do a lot of things. Interactive activities with specific things they can actually make and break. That's very important.
Thank you both for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
For joining.
Yeah, thank you.
You can, I don't know how to switch this off, so
Okay, no, I will do that. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
Bijit
you.
da.
So basically, that is what we were discussing, right? Ki, these guys, Christians, in second, third, fourth century, they did not have much literature. So they started to censor the pagan literature, but that was not enough, because in that way they could not convince the Roman elites, right? In my opinion, the best strategy to introduce heroes like Hanuman, Arjuna. हाँ, वो तो जब महाभारत पढ़ेंगे वो तो automatically आ जाएगा. And these books are very cool books in my opinion. उससे मतलब मैं like in my experience what happened was similar. That's why this one thing that I sort of I'm very proud of in a way कि मैं इसी से जब सीखा था, महाभारत पढ़ने लगा था, क्योंकि मेरे जो ग्रैंड मॉम थे वो बूढ़ियों का एक सभा टाइप होता था, एंड देन दे गॉट मी कि इसको, ये बच्चा है इसको लाओ और इस महाभारत पढ़वाओ, ठीक है। क्योंकि उस टाइम पे काफी बूढ़ियों का वो आंखों का ऑपरेशन हुआ था, कैटरेक्ट वगैरह। सो दे ब्रॉट मी, एंड वो बैठक खाना होता था, बैठक खाना में मैं पढ़ता था। और उसके बाद मेरा एक्चुअली स्कूल एजुकेशन चालू हुआ मेरा, तो मैं तो ये सब केजी वेजी में गया भी नहीं। बट देन व्हाट पीपल फाउंड अबाउट मी कि ये बंदे का स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक नहीं होता है, The teachers were also amazed, right? And every time they literally they try to beat me कि ये वाला कुछ नया मोड़ दे देते हैं, कुछ अलग वर्ड ट्राई करते हैं. बट संस्कृत लिटरेचर इटसेल्फ इतना वास्ट है, और वहां से फिर आप ये सब पढ़ने लगोगे तो स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक बहुत कम हो जाए. स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक कम होने से जो कॉन्फिडेंस आता है, लिटरेचर हो या फिर और कोई जगह हो, बाद में उससे वो फिर 10 तक खींच ही लेता है. ठीक है, 11 12 का थोड़ा साइंस ही हो जाता है, तो तब थोड़ा अलग तरीके का माइंड चाहिए होता है. बट एटलीस्ट लिटरेचर, हिस्ट्री, जियोग्राफी, ये सब तो खींच ही लेते हैं उसके बाद.
Yeah, we have Munshi Shastri with us. So, hi.
हाय
Namaste.
मुंशी, नमस्ते.
So yeah, actually, we also need to look back in our past as well, right? So I want to remind people about this beautiful TV series called Malgudi Days. One of the first episodes in Malgudi Days was basically, I think the main character, he's a kid. He's called Swami. Like, उसका नाम ही स्वामी है, right? वो स्कूल पे जाता है एंड इट्स बेसिकली ब्रिटिश रन मिशनरी स्कूल, और उधर उसको मिशनरी उसको बहुत गाली दे के बेसिकली एग्जैक्टली व्हाट यू डिस्क्राइब, राइट? ऐसा तुम लोग का भगवान नकली है, देख मैं तुझे अभी पनिशमेंट दे रहा हूँ, तेरा भगवान किधर है, राइट? वो सब सीन सब क्लियरली बताते थे. एंड एक्चुअली इफ यू आस्क सम ऑफ द ओल्डर जनरेशन इंडियन, especially even folks of my generation who were born in the 80s, we were a lot of us went to convent schools, और conversation भी ऐसे होता था. So when we would come home, our parents would actually prepare us for these kinds of conversations, right? उन लोग हमें बताते थे, देख ये लोग ऐसे तुम लोग के साथ दखल अंदाज करेंगे, ये चीज बोलेंगे, and that would sort of prepare us. मैं तो फॉर्मली मैं कोई स्क्रिप्चर नहीं पढ़ा हूँ. मैं जो भी स्क्रिप्चर पढ़ा हूँ मैं, ठीक है, यज्ञोपवीतम के टाइम पे किया, तो उसके बाद मैं कुछ नहीं किया. But I still remember those lines of arguments and debates that my parents presented to me at such a young age, that मैं अभी भी कोई भी मेरे पास आता है, I mean, वेस्ट में रहे हुए तो it's a sort of fact of life that you keep on bumping with missionaries. They are not able to sway my arguments. They're not able to convince me. So I think it's
Right.
important for one, we need to look back in the past and see how those kids, basically our grandparents, dealt with these situations.
Right.
And two, like, we as older gentlemen need to teach our younger gentlemen about the kinds of arguments they will face. We don't need to teach them our tenets, but we just need to tell them like, hey, देख ये सब arguments आने वाला है, ये सब तुझे
Right.
बताने वाला है, इससे कुछ फायदा नहीं होने वाला है, तुम लोग को ही उल्लू बनाना है. So that's all I got to say.
Right, right. And मैं तो I think I have already told you about my encounter, right, in my school days with Christianism. कि हमारे बगल में एक चर्च था, वहाँ 2 स्कूल भी थे, मिशनरी गर्ल्स एंड बॉयज. तो हम लोग तो फिर आई थिंक हमारे से 5 साल पहले से ही हमारे जो सीनियर थे उन्होंने ये प्रथा चालू हो गया था कि ये मतलब इनको हराना, राइट, एग्जाम्स में, स्टेट एग्जाम, काफ़ी जगह क्रिकेट में, फुटबॉल में हराना, ये सब 5-6 साल पहले से चालू हुआ था हमारे सरकारी स्कूल में. बट देन व्हाट हैपेंड वाज कि वही मुझे एक बुक, छोटा सा लिफलेट टाइप मिला, पैम्फलेट मिला, जहाँ पे they were distributing a pamphlet that talks about Christianism, the basic Christian story. And when the first time I read it, I laughed about it. And so I brought the pamphlet to my classroom. I sat with 5-6 of my friends. It was a boys' school, obviously, so the culture was very brutal. And we made fun of this guy, right, who was whatever cross nailed and this thing. And बिल्कुल विशुद्ध बंगाली में बिल्कुल उसका मजाक उड़ाया हमने. ये कैसा, मतलब क्या है ये, मतलब ऐसे कर दिया गया और इसको लेके कहानी बना रहा है. So that was the attitude, right? So in a brutal, proud culture, this guy Christ cannot stand. You have to create that culture of pride and self-confidence and a little bit of savagery. Okay, the pagan savagery, as you know it, the elite savagery. कि हमारे सामने अगर आर्गुमेंट, गंदा आर्गुमेंट लेके आते हो, खा जाऊंगा. There is no place for dirty argument. There is no place for absurd argument before me. अगर लाते हो तो तैयार होके आना. कि अगर हार गया तो मतलब इतना बेइज्जती करूंगा कि तुम मतलब याद रखेगा, जो भी है तुम्हारा भगवान भी याद रखेगा मुझे, ठीक है. सो इन दैट काइंड ऑफ कल्चर क्रिश्चियनिज्म कैन नॉट फ्लोरिश. यू हैव टू क्रिएट दैट काइंड ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंट सैवेज कल्चर जो जो यूएस में है. फॉर एग्जांपल यूएस में दिस गाइज आर आउट ऑफ क्रिश्चियनिटी एंड नाउ दे आर ट्राइंग कि क्रिश्चियन नेशन बनाना है, ये है वो है. द रिपब्लिकन्स दे डोंट बिलीव इन मेकिंग इट अ क्रिश्चियन नेशन. I mean, just imagine the dichotomy. They are choosing a guy as leader, a guy like Donald Trump as their leader, who is engaged in so much debauchery and whatever, right? So these Goras in even in the US and obviously in Europe, they are so much out of Christianity. Why? Because they're proud people. And whenever you have pride, there is no place of Christianism. Christianism cannot teach you pride. Christianism can only teach you servility, split, schism, ठीक है, लोगों को पागल बनाना, उल्लू बनाना, कैसे हाउ टू बी नाइस एट योर फेस बट हैव जहर इनसाइड योर सेल्फ. ये जो मास्क पहनना होता है, ये क्रिश्चियनिज्म ने सिखाया है इस दुनिया को, ठीक है. सो इफ यू आर प्राउड मैन विथ वन माइंड, ठीक है, क्रिश्चियनिज्म घुस नहीं सकता. should do an episode. हाँ, मोरमन्स का तो मजाक तो अमेरिकन खुद वो लोग मजाक बनाते हैं. मोरमन्स जस्ट लाइक कि इंडिया में जैसे कोई इंडियन दलित अगर अमेरिका में जाके क्रिश्चियनिज्म का बात करता है तो गोरा उसका मजाक उड़ाता है. सो द सेम वे अगर कोई मोरमन आके ये सब बताता है तो गोरे उनका मजाक उड़ाता है कि भाई हम लोगों को ये बोलने आए हो, वी कन्वर्टेड यू विद ब्रूट फोर्स, नाउ यू गाइस आर टीचिंग अस दीस थिंग्स. तो ये सब तो होता रहेगा. बट आई विल
On a
टॉक
li-
अबाउट इट, श्योर.
on a lighter note, I know why RSS people do not allow married people to join their fold permanently. You have to attend the call and leave country's work. So that's why RSS only allows unmarried people, so that the wife's call cannot disturb nation's work. Okay, Vijita, continue. I might leave for 2-3 minutes. I need to get my dinner, so
हाँ हाँ,
I'll now I'll
ठीक
be
है.
here. No problem. You can continue.
Hmm. So right, so we were discussing this Jerome, right? Jerome was this guy who was Jerome and Augustine. Both of them were a little bit of scholar who had um, grasp over the classical Greco-Roman literature, but then they were arguing in favor of Christianity, right? But then it was the Roman elites who was, and obviously the Christians as well, who started to implicate Jerome, saying that this guy is Caesarian, right? Cicero is someone who gave the idea of republic, as far as I remember, and then the idea of religio and superstitio and all these things. And through Cicero's definition, Christianism was basically a superstition. Um, but then this guy Jerome, who was talking in favor of Christianism, he was being implicated as being not a Christian but a Caesarian. Okay, so all right, so basically, then these guys Augustine and Jerome, these guys realized that we have to digest the classical Greco-Roman literature. We have to create probably copy from this literature without giving proper citation and reference, and in the process we'll create, we sort of mass produce a huge number of literature that will stand before this ginormous Greco-Roman legacy. Okay, so hence in part of self-interest and in part from actual Christian interest, Christianity and Christian people, they started to absorb and digest the literature of the heathens into itself. Cicero soon sat alongside the Psalters, after all, and many of those who felt most awkward about their classical learning made the best use of it. राइट, कि जैसे हिंदुओं को हिंदू लिटरेचर ओपनली बोलने में शर्म आती है, बट वो कन्वर्ट होके फिर उसी का कॉपी बनाने लगेगा, राइट? इट इज जस्ट लाइक दैट. So the Christian writer Tertullian might have disdained classical learning in asking why Athens had to do with Jerusalem, but then he used the style of rhetoric, right? And then Bishop there was this guy who created. So in modern culture, even in modern culture, you will see कि जैसे बोला जाता है ना कि पौंडीचेरी फ्रेंच स्टाइल में बनाया गया है. What is implicit there? The implicit is कि मोनोक्रोमेटिक कलर, ज्यादा कलरफुल नहीं है, सिंगल कलर का यूज होता है, एंड ऑल दिस थिंग्स कि वन कलर टू कलर ज्यादा ज्यादा. जैसे राजस्थान चले जाओ, यू विल सी गेट टू सी एवरी काइंड ऑफ कलर इन द क्लोथ्स, इन द बिल्डिंग, राइट, इन म्यूजिक, एवरीवेयर. बट फ्रेंच कल्चर, फ्रेंच फूड जैसे हो गया, थोड़ा नमक कम, मिर्ची कम, बिल्कुल क्या खाया पता नहीं चलता, एक जैसा खाना होता है, राइट. एंड दैट्स व्हाई जर्मन आल्सो मेक फन ऑफ द फ्रेंच, राइट, कि फ्रेंच ईट फ्रॉग्स, फ्रेंच डोंट नो हाउ टू ईट. तो ऐसे दिस काइंड ऑफ स्टाइल, ये थोड़ा जो डल स्टाइल है. या फिर यू गो टू स्कॉटलैंड एंड गेट टू सी, मतलब इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल प्लेस, बट देन यू विल सी single kind of this monochromaticity, right? Is not really uniformity, but it is this dullness. ये dullness का एक हिस्ट्री है. हिस्ट्री ये है कि um, इन्होंने जब देखा कि जो पेगन स्टैचूज है या फिर टेम्पल्स था, वो कितना वास्ट था, उसका क्या ब्रेड, क्या मतलब साइज, स्टाइल कितना ज्यादा डाइवर्स होता था. क्रिश्चियन स्टार्टेड टू से कि there is this guy, Cicero, who adopted this Stoic principle. French is snails. They call it is good. Yeah, snails तो बंगाल में गांव में खाया जाता है. तो ये गाली तो तुम मेरे पे दिए हो, बट ठीक है. हमारे उधर भी स्नेल्स खाया जाता है काफी, वो पॉन्ड का. एनीवे, तो फिर बिशप एम्ब्रोस जो था, he basically he copied Cicero's Stoic principle, and he started to craft the design, like the clothes and everything, the fashion in that Stoic style, which mean कि एक जैसा यूनिफॉर्म बन गया. ये जो यूनिफॉर्म का आइडिया है ना, ठीक है, ये बेसिकली बिशप एम्ब्रोस ने सिसेरो का स्टोइसिज्म को कॉपी करके बनाया, while Augustine adapted the Roman oratory for Christian ends. गार्लिक. ये सारे गाली बंगालियों में पड़ रहा है, मुझे लग रहा है. तो फिर ऑगस्टिन ने okay, so they adopted the Roman oratory for Christian ends. The philosophical terms for the Greeks, logos क्या होता था? Logos was some kind of a yukti, right? Cosmic yukti. So it's like any two facts or any two events or any two reason can be connected through a yukti. इसको logos कहा जाता था. So they started to copy the logos of the Greeks as well. So when they're discussing, let's say, fashion, ठीक है, या फिर their own books, their philosophy, क्योंकि stoicism थोड़ा asceticism के पास है, तो they started to adopt it, and in the process they started to adopt the logos itself. और logos फिर क्रिश्चियन जो लिटरेचर चालू हुआ लिखना, वहां पे बार बार आने लगा. So logos in the whole process, it became a Christian word more than a pagan Greco-Roman word. ठीक है, it started to seep into the Christian philosophy. And then obviously they started all these kind of assimilation and digestion and copy and everything, but many of them were not successful. So there was a poet who rewrote the Gospel of John in the style of Homer. होमर ने जैसे इलियड ओडिसी लिखे थे, उस स्टाइल में इन्होंने गॉस्पेल लिखना चालू किया. Obviously that failed. Another scholar during the reign of Julian the Apostate, who forbade anyone who didn't believe in old God to teach works such as Homer that contained them, redrafted the entirety of biblical history in 24 books of Homeric hexameter, and recast the epistles and gospels into the form of a Socratic dialogues. तो इन्होंने फिर वही बुक का भंडार खोल दिया, मतलब 24 किताब बना दिया, कुछ हेक्सामीटर लाइन पे बनाया, and then they started to write gospels in the form of dialogue, and that failed. Fanciful intellectual genealogies were invented to defend Christianity's favorite philosophers, but it was not working. Long dead thinkers who happened to have any resemblance to Christianity in their writings found themselves adopted as unwitting ancestors in the tradition. The whiff of Christianity hung around Plato. Okay, जैसे मैं बोल रहा था कि प्लेटो का जो आइडिया ऑफ फॉर्म था कि देयर एग्जिस्ट समथिंग ट्रांसेंडेंटल इथीरियल which is the stand which should be the standard of truth, justice and beauty. उस तरह से फिर भगवान को ये लोग, गॉड को ये लोग, भगवान तो नहीं है, गॉड को क्राफ्ट करने लगे. So they digested Plato as well. That was because he had visited. अच्छा हाँ, तो ये लोग फिर क्या बोलने लगे, ये लोग फिर हिस्ट्री को कॉन्कॉक्ट करने लगे. And they started to claim कि Plato, Socrates, these people were Christians. So they started to claim कि Plato और Socrates Christian थे. कैसे Christian थे कि वही स्टोरी बनाने लगे कि that was because Plato had apparently visited Egypt, and while there he had perhaps read a copy of the first 5 books of the Bible that Moses had. कि ये जो अपना प्लेटो था वो इजिप्ट जाके गॉस्पेल और अपना ओल्ड टेस्टामेंट पढ़ के आया है, और ओल्ड टेस्टामेंट पढ़ के उसने अपना फिलोसफी दिया है. ठीक है, इस तरह से प्लेटो को फिर क्रिश्चियन, जुडियो क्रिश्चियन फिलोसफर, जैसे जुडियो क्रिश्चियन बोला जाता है ना, सो दैट कनिंग फ्रेज. So they started to digest Plato as well. He was really one of us. Socrates was a Christian before Christ. So बोल रहे थे Socrates was a Christian before Christ. कि Socrates is a Christian icon. Classical scholars had been reading Homer allegorically for centuries. तो जैसे हम लोगों के यहाँ रामायण पाठ किया जाता है गांव में, तो वहां पे ग्रेको रोमन सोसाइटी में होमर का जो इलियड ओडिसी था उसे पाठ किया जाता था. इट वाज सॉर्ट ऑफ अ स्पिरिचुअल बुक फॉर देम. और उस तरह से ये लोग फिर बाइबल पढ़ने लगे. ठीक है, सो नाउ बेटर रीड क्रिश्चियंस started to do the same with the Bible, much to the disgust of the non-Christian critics who felt that this was a cowardly intellectual cheat. तो बोले ये तो चीटिंग चल रहा है ना, कि हम लोग जैसे होमर पढ़ रहे हैं, हम लोग बाइबल पढ़ना उसी तरह से चालू कर दिए हो. दिस इज नॉट डन. एज सेल्सस ऑब्जर्व्ड विथ इरिटेशन, कि और एक फिलोसोफर था सेल्सस नाम का, he said that the more reasonable Jews and Christians are ashamed of these things and try somehow to allegorize them. कि ये लोग अपने क्रिश्चियनिटी, सेल्सस ने बोला कि the Christians are so ashamed of their Christianism that now they are trying to allegorize them. Some Christians would कि अब उसे मतलब बेसिकली क्रिश्चियनिज्म छोड़ के उसको पेगनाइज कर रहे हैं ये लोग. जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं ना, अरे ये रथ यात्रा निकाला है, दे मैरी को हिंदुआइज कर दिया, तो इनको अपने क्रिश्चियनिटी में यकीन नहीं है इसलिए ये इसको हिंदुआइज कर दिया है. हम लोग अभी भी बोलते हैं, बट वी आर नॉट रेजिस्टिंग द प्रोसेस. हमें एक्चुअली जाके ये रेजिस्ट करना चाहिए कि ये नहीं होना चाहिए. इससे हम लोगों का जो रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट है वो हर्ट हो रहा है. हिंदुओं को एक्चुअली ये क्लेम करना चाहिए, एंड हिंदूज नीड टू गो, मतलब जितना पॉसिबल है यू गो टू दैट एक्सटेंट टू स्टॉप दिस रथ यात्रास एंड मदर मैरी जो भी है बीइंग शोन एज अ हिंदू वट एवर, की गणेश जी को लेके बैठे हैं, ये सब बंद कराओ. यू हैव टू स्टॉप दिस थिंग्स. यू हैव टू बी मतलब कैटेगोरिकली एसर्टिव कि भाई दिस इज हर्टिंग माई सेंटिमेंट. यू जस्ट कैनॉट डू इट. और हम लोग ना करके उनका मजाक उड़ाते हैं, जैसे यहाँ पे सेल्सस मजाक उड़ाता था, बट इट वाज अराउंड 300 AD, बट क्लियरली इट डिडंट वर्क फॉर द ग्रेको रोमन्स. ठीक है, so as Celsus observed with irritation, the more reasonable Jews and Christians are ashamed of these things and try somehow to allegorize them. Some Christians would remain suspicious of the habit. अच्छा, यहाँ पे और एक चीज मैं बोलना चाहूंगा, वो ये है कि ग्रेको रोमन पेगन सिविलाइजेशन डिस्ट्रॉय करने में ज्यूज और क्रिश्चियंस, दे केम इन अलायंस, दे फॉर्म द अलायंस टू डिस्ट्रॉय द ग्रेको रोमन सिविलाइजेशन. क्यों? क्योंकि जो भी एट द टाइम व्हेन द क्रिश्चियंस डिड नॉट हैव एनी लिटरेचर, दे वर लुकिंग टू द ईस्ट, to Jerusalem and these Jewish people and their literature. And so they used to collude with these Jews in order to, I mean, with the intention to translate those Hebrew literature into the Greco-Roman literature, because they needed to prove this point कि हमारा literature superior है. That's why they were looking to Jerusalem. They came in cahoots with these Jews in order to translate a large volume of literature into Greco-Roman literature. Or India mein, the Muslims were in cahoots with the Christians to destroy the Hindu civilization. ठीक है? So you have to understand ये आपस में alliance बना ही लेते हैं when it comes to destroy the pagan civilization. And we need to have a template कि how to counter this, how to counter their literature, their imposition of culture, their habit of digestion, appropriation, their habit of cheating and copying. इसके खिलाफ हमें एक नैरेटिव खड़ा करना है, हमें खुद को एजुकेट करना है, इसके खिलाफ लड़ना है बेसिकली. वी हैव टू बी वोकल अबाउट दिस. एनीवे, so some Christians would remain suspicious of the habit कि ये लोग तो पेगन को कॉपी कर रहे हैं, तो हम लोग क्यों कन्वर्ट हुए. Another writer raged at those Christians who avail themselves of the arts of unbelievers to smooth over scriptural bombs. ठीक है कि there was some radical Christian who were like, why are we believing and copying the art of the unbelievers? Less than 100 years after the first Christian emperor, the intellectual landscape was changing. In the 3rd century, there had been 28 public libraries. So 3rd century mein, there were 28 public libraries in Rome, and there were many private libraries. But at the end of 4th century, Christianism ने इतना तबाही मचाया after Constantine the Great कि रोम में कोई लाइब्रेरी बचा नहीं था. And there is this historian, Ammianus Marcellinus, who is observing with sorrow, and he writes that there are no libraries, but there are tomb of libraries, permanently shut. कि अभी लाइब्रेरी ग्रंथागार नहीं बचा है, उनका शमशान बचा है बस. Was Christianity's rise cause or mere correlation in this? Obviously, because they destroyed the pagan temples, and libraries were centered around those temples. So obviously they destroyed and burned the libraries as well. Because pagan literature को burn करना भी, because they needed to erase the history, because Christianism needed to portray कि their age is the age of whatever illumination, and the age before Christ is the dark age. Hence they burnt all the libraries, all the temples, cultures, and everything. So Christian emperors would later struggle to increase literacy to ensure that the state even had enough literate functionaries. कि मतलब फिर लोगों के एजुकेशन में इसका इम्पैक्ट इतना ज्यादा आया कि द क्रिश्चियन एम्परर्स वर स्ट्रगलिंग हाउ टू मेक पीपल लिटरेट. Certain fields of inquiry started to become not only off limits but illegal. कोई टॉपिक था, सब्जेक्ट था जिसको इलीगल कर दिया गया. इवन बिफोर ब्रिटिश केम टू इंडिया, मुस्लिम्स वर इन्वेडिंग भारत, enslaving rishis and stealing books. Right. Similar culture, because they need to prove that there doesn't exist, there didn't exist any education or anything, any light before Islam or before Christianity. That's why they needed to do it. And that was the culture that continued till the time of Nazi, and even for Islam as well. Like जो ढाका में अब जो इस्लामिस्ट कर रहे हैं, burning libraries, books, idols, universities. It continues for these sort of cults. Sorry. So as of 380 AD, Constantine the Great, I think, came in 312 AD, but this is 388 AD. There was a law that was announced. ये I think Constantine के बेटा भी उसने भी काफी मचाया था. And then उसके बाद ही announce हुआ कि there shall be no opportunity for court. There shall be no opportunity for any man to go out to the public and to argue about religion or to discuss it or to give any counsel. So मतलब 380 AD में 88 AD में blasphemy law आ गया. If anyone with the damnable audacity attempted to argue about religion, the law announced with a threat no less ominous for being vague, that quote, he shall be restrained with a due penalty and a proper punishment. So blasphemy law आ गया. Then obviously जो argument होता था कि pagan versus Christian, वो होना बंद हो गया. And now they were favoring the whole literature to support Christianity. तो उस तरह से फिर जो pagan culture था, pagan literature था, वो कम होना चालू हुआ. और फिर Christian literature बढ़ना चालू. Constantine grandson ने छोड़ दिया था Christianity. Right, the great Julian. तो वो उसके बाद आया. बस तब तक मतलब जूलियन के टाइम में भी वो दंगा फसाद काफी बढ़ गया था. So Julian had to adopt some sort of secularism कि भाई सबको अपना whatever फेथ प्रैक्टिस करने का मौका मिलेगा, जस्ट लाइक मॉडर्न इंडियन स्टेट, राइट?
Bijit, I just want to talk one thing here. I think this is an important topic, important thing that we are discussing. So, correct, when I was showing the book, this book, Shatrubodh and Swayambodh. Okay.
Right,
Because actually we will be discussing, probably we'll invite the author as well to come and talk to us, but we can actually review his book as well, because I have seen, I don't have the book, but I've seen the podcast, the book. Okay, so what we are discussing here is a kind of, correct, the method and the madness at which the Abrahamic faith actually implement their plan in a long term way, in a short term way. Okay, they use both. Okay, allurement and then building principles, building institutions, building incentives to actually keep them there. Okay, so we
right,
see what we see here. Correct. First conversion by inducement, by telling you will get jobs, you will get hospital, you will all those things. So just because they want those favors, they will just say, okay, I will change my name and pray to one more God. Correct. So,
right,
and they don't have any issue because there's the inducement. Then there are actually like you have a church which will tell you what you need to do. Then you have institutions which actually make sure that you don't
mm,
leave the faith.
right, exactly.
So, so in that same way, when we are talking about Swayambodh and Shatrubodh, okay, as this book talks about, do you think apart from like pockets of resistance, okay, in terms of physical resistance against the Abrahamics, okay, did we have a kind of, let's say, did we understood the Abrahamic mindset which actually derives all these things? So the church as an institution, correct, is a kind of a outcome of a mindset which is there in the scriptures.
Right,
So, for over 1,000 years, apart from Shankaracharya or maybe say the Hindu Swaraj or the Peshwa, okay, who actually did they did fight the Abrahamics. They won the war, okay, and they
mm,
also put in some kind of institutions, which actually that's why you see Maharashtra and that region has a lot of institutions which actually still make sure that the conversion is not that much compared to, you say, south or in the east. Okay. So
right.
my question is that do where we lack in terms of building those like firewalls which actually make sure that when people come and say, okay, you worship a false god, and we are unable to actually tell them, okay, no, you are not right, we worship a god which is something that is part of our identity. So do we lack that Swayambhuv and Shatrubudh for over 1,000 years that
So,
we had to go
right,
through this?
right. So, I mean, from the fight that Marathas gave,
Hmm.
especially Shivaji and Sambhaji,
Hmm.
it looks like they understood the doctrine of Islam at least.
Yeah, but
And
did they build those correct institutions? Correct, the way the
right,
Abrahamics actually build institutions. Did they build that, but or they
uh,
didn't have a time to do that? In
right. So they built institutions in the sense that जो उन्होंने taxation जो जैसे लगाया, ये सब जो लगाए थे, इससे पता चलता है कि they had the mindset of a warrior, of a kshatriya to counter them, right? Now, I think your question is indicating towards ki the, matlab, do we understand really the literature, the intent,
Yeah,
and how
yeah,
to counter it, the
exactly. See,
ecosystem,
correct. The Abrahamic way of thinking derived from their scriptures is something which is fundamentally 360-degree opposite of what we think of, what the
right,
way
right,
we believe in. Correct. So if you are unable to see, I am being fair to you. Correct. So if you are on the same length with me, I can deal with you in a fair way. Correct.
right,
But if your intention is to harm me, how I can be fair to you? Is that the right approach?
right. So in that case, right, so let's list out what are the mistakes that we did,
Hmm.
right? Mistakes are, for example, उस time पे we did not have the हाँ, one, you might have known कि अमर शब्दकोश नाम का एक डिक्शनरी शिवाजी ने इम्प्लीमेंट किया था, क्योंकि उनका जब राज्याभिषेक हो रहा था, देन ही फाउंड कि यार जो प्रशस्ति किया जा रहा है, मेरा जो तारीफ किया जा रहा है कि महाराज राइट, उसमें काफी सारे पारसी और उर्दू और ये सब वर्ड्स हैं, एंड ही वाज नॉट हैप्पी विद इट। सो ही सेड कि यार जो मराठी जो वर्ड्स है उसको मैं वापस लाऊंगा, और जो अगर कोई ट्रेस नहीं मिल रहा तो मैं संस्कृत से वो वर्ड्स लाऊंगा, बट मैं ये उर्दू और ये नहीं करूंगा। बट ओवर टाइम हिंदी के साथ क्या हुआ, फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये बॉलीवुड बॉलीवुड के चक्कर में हिंदी जैसे, हिंदी हैज बिकम द वॉक ऑफ इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस, right? Matlab, Waqf has not only gotten a land, a chunk of land in India, they have Waqfized a language, which is Hindi. And they are trying the same, they have already done it with Punjabi, जिसको लेके भगत सिंह ने लिखे थे काफी, कि उर्दू पारसी में उर्दू जो पोएट है उनका इमेजिनेशन वो हूर और खजूर तक ही जा सकता है। भगत सिंह रोड दिस, ठीक है। सो भगत सिंह एक्चुअली वाज इन फेवर ऑफ डी उर्दूवाइज पंजाबी, बट अब तो वो भी हो चुका है लगभग। अभी ये लोग बंगाली को ट्राई कर रहे हैं धीरे धीरे, धीरे धीरे साउथ में भी ये लोग प्रोपोगेट कर रहे हैं। द प्रॉब्लम इज, ये तो लैंग्वेज के साथ हुआ है। दूसरा पॉइंट ये है कि आर्टिकल 25 to 30 इन्होंने खुद को उसके थ्रू सिक्योर कर लिया है कि जो हमारा लैंड है वो हमारा लैंड रहेगा, जो हमारा स्कूल है वो एक्सक्लूसिवली हमारा स्कूल रहेगा, तुम लोग आ सकते हो लेकिन हम लोग अपने मर्जी से पढ़ाएंगे। ये जो आर्टिकल 25 से 30 है ये राइट तो देता है, बट इसके साथ हम लोग जो कर सकते हैं वो ये है कि ठीक है, अगर चर्च में जीसस है एंड अदर पीपल आर देयर, so this is okay, this is your way of spiritualizing a martyr who died for a faith, but there are other people as well in India who died for our faith, like Khudiram Bose, like Bhagat Singh. And so what we are going to do, because this is the place to celebrate the spirituality of martyrdom and eternal justice, तो ऐसे नैरेटिव गढ़ो और जो इंडियन जो हमारा शहीद है उनको वहां डालो, keep their poster photos and make the Hindus enter to the churches and pray for
Vijay,
these martyrs.
Vijay, to actually get your point little bit more finer details, correct? Here is a quote from Ashish Dharji. You know him, correct?
Right, ये कोड में पढ़ चुका हूँ कि डीप स्टेट बनाने
Yeah.
वाले हैं for the long
No,
term.
no, see,
But
it is not about, see, actually, let me interpret that in my way, the way I interpret it, correct? Don't go by the words which have been put there. And I'm going to put also Rishi here as well. Rishi is there. See,
right,
we have to understand the philosophy or the goal or the objective behind the word deep state. Right? It is about, okay, if I have a power today, I need to create mechanisms, processes, institutions, which is going to make sure that I am going to enjoy the fruit of this power that I have today, and make sure that this continues for next 3 generations through institutions, through processes, through a lot of other means.
right,
So deep state is not something which is going to, like, there's a set of things. Deep state is a kind of a mechanism which people
right,
have built. Correct? People have built to make sure to perpetuate their own power. So like people just go by the semantics. What is the deep state? Okay, they are doing all these things. It is not about that. It's about the objective. The objective is to perpetuate your own exclusive wealth and power that you enjoy. You want to continue. In that same way, my fundamental argument is that when in Mahabharat, when in Yuddha, correct, in Kurukshetra, so you cannot defeat Duryodhan in a fair way by the rules, because he has already broken the rules by having a body which cannot be touched because of the other things, correct? So are we, by being fair to the other party, are we giving them an undue advantage because their intention is to
yes,
exterminate us, okay, and we are trying to negotiate with them? So
right,
there is a
right, because
fundamental.
these cards, they say something and they have some other intent. That's the thing, the split, right? You cannot believe, like, they have a spectrum of their face. It's just like you see my face, right? But Christianism has this whole spectrum. It's like
That's why
Ravana,
I
right?
that's why I have this book here to actually, not the Bengali
Huh,
book, but the face. Correct? We are, so
exactly.
today we are talking about uh, the what we, how do you say this, correct? The false face that people show. Correct? People
Right.
have different kind of faces, different kind of objectives. So the objective is something different. They will build
Chameleon,
schools
right?
and
It's just
colleges.
like
Yeah,
chameleon.
chameleon. That's why I have this book here to actually give a symbolic meaning to our talk today. In that same way, is Hindu society being too naive to actually think that we might get something good out of that?
Right.
And I'm not saying as a correct that you need to like disregard or disbelieve everybody, but we have to
No,
understand as
the
a
first thing that we can do to declare these faiths as superstitio. That's what I'm saying. You see, the Greek philosophers said it. They called it superstitio, and you guys have subverted this. So I cannot, I cannot put the blame on the semantics and on the language. Just because you subverted the word religio for superstitio and superstitio for religio, you are calling faith. The moment Christianism is calling itself religio, they are getting the power to claim Hinduism as superstition. You see the problem. You see the subversion. In the eyes of Roman philosophy, in the eyes of English language, Hinduism should be called religio. And अभी फिर जावेद अख्तर आके ये आर्ग्यू कर रहे हैं कि ये रिलीजन खराब है. नो, रिलीजन क्या खराब है भाई? रिलीजियो वर्ड जहां से आ रहा है वो कॉस्मिक ऑर्डर का बात कर रहा है. इट इज अ ग्रीको रोमन वर्ड. तुम पहले हिंदुइज्म को रिलीजियो बनाया, फिर सुपरस्टिशियो बनाया, फिर वहां से बोल रहे हो कि ये सब तो खराब ही है. ठीक है, या तो इसको डिस्कार्ड करो, या फिर तुम बोलो कि देखो क्रिश्चियनिज्म को बोला ही है सुपरस्टिशियो, सो हमारे सिलेबस में बुक में ये सब पढ़ाएंगे और इसको ट्रीट करेंगे एज ए सुपरस्टिशियो. सीधी सी बात है. और ये भी पढ़ाएंगे हाइपेशिया को कैसे मारा था, ये भी पढ़ाएंगे कितने लाइब्रेरीज जलाए थे, कितने लोगों को मारे थे. ये तुम लोग 7 साल की उम्र से अगर ये सब पढ़ाए, मतलब ये स्क्रिप्चर पढ़ा रहे हो, हम लोग 7 साल की उम्र से स्कूल में ये डालेंगे और तुम्हें इस पे ऐसे लिखना होगा, इसमें सब कुछ लिखना होगा, हाउ यू हैव सबवर्टेड द होल लैंग्वेज, कल्चर, ट्रेडिशन, ड्रेसेस, क्लोथ्स, थॉट्स, सोल, एवरीथिंग. ये इस पे ऐसे लिखना होगा. ये करके देखो 10-20-30 साल में ये सब जो जंजाल है खत्म हो जाएगा आराम से. पहले लोगों के दिमाग से तो निकालना होगा कि these are superior beliefs. You have to show them actually they are not.
yes. So that's what like I was trying to even like correct. There was a one talk happened with in the College Proga channel, CSK channel, and there was a novelist, maybe probably a Bengali person, who was talking about the problem with Bengali Hindus now at this juncture is that, and that was my perception long back, maybe 2-3 years or 4 years ago when I got to know all these things, is that how long as Hindus are going to run away from one part to another, correct? Where is the social resistance? Where is the social unity just for survival? So,
Right.
and that is actually something which is a worrying sign, because you need that glue, and that glue is missing. Is this glue is missing because we do not have enough swayambodh and enough shatrubodh to actually create that cement which will bind us together?
No, education नहीं है ना, वही ना. See, these are scriptural moralities. In order to counter them, we need scriptural knowledge. If you, because these are rhetoric. मैं rhetoric बार बार सेकेंड लेक्चर में बोला, अभी भी बोल रहा हूँ. क्यों? क्योंकि मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूँ कि morality is the order which does not need words to be revealed. So these scriptural moralities, if they are claiming to be some sort of a moral standard, first of all, these are external morality, and these are being created through rhetoric. And because they are being created through rhetoric, you can dismantle them only through rhetoric. Okay? Even reason is not enough to dismantle this rhetoric. You have to dismantle at that level, at the level of scripture, at the level of rhetoric. और वो सिर्फ स्टेट नहीं कर सकता. स्टेट ज्यादा से ज्यादा एक सिलेबस बदल सकता है, जो करना, जो विच शुड बी द वेरी फर्स्ट टास्क. आज पाकिस्तान पे देखो, ये अभी 3 महीने पहले जो जंग हुआ वो पाकिस्तान स्टडी बुक में आ चुका है. नाउ लाइक द नेक्स्ट क्लास दे आर गोइंग टू स्टडी द इंडिया पाकिस्तान वॉर 2025. और हम लोग 10 साल से ये इस्लाम और क्रिश्चियनिटी के बारे में जो क्रिटिक है उसको बुक में नहीं डाल पाए. ठीक है, तुम दिखा रहे हो इधर इतना जौहर हुआ था, इधर इतने लोग मारे थे, अकबर महान नहीं था. व्हाट अबाउट द वेरी आइडियोलॉजीज? तुम अकबर को खराब बोल के ये तो बोल नहीं सकते ना कि इस्लाम खराब है. तुम्हें तो दिखाना होगा कि ये सब कल्ट के एक्चुअल रियलिटीज क्या है. Where do we stand for in terms of like critiquing these basic cults? No, the glue is missing cause we peddle knowledge even from our side, which is escapist. That is true because we are zimmis, right? 1,000 year of zimmihood. It has created that sort of escapade through which we are judging कि भाई इनको खराब बोल देंगे तो पता नहीं बाहर वाला कोई मुझे कुछ बोल देगा, मारने आ जाएगा. That डर, that genetic, I don't know whether this is a genetic phobia, बट इट इज देयर इन एवरी हिंदू कि भाई मैं इसके बारे में खराब कैसे बोल दूंगा. अरे बोलो ना भाई, बोल के देखो, एक बार क्रिटिसाइज करके देखो, मजा आएगा. एंड एस्केपिज्म नेवर गिव्स राइज टू एक्शन ओरिएंटेड प्रिंसिपल पीपल. राइट राइट, आई टोटली एग्री विद इट. मैं बार बार बोल रहा, यू हैव टू बी अ प्राउड मैन विथ वन फेस. दैट्स हाउ यू कैन काउंटर दीज थिंग्स. Right? You look at Asauddin Owaisi, how does he defend this cult? His cult. हमारा तो कल्ट भी नहीं है. हमारा कोई जो लिटरेचर है वो ऐसे ही बहता आ रहा है, उसमें कोई सबवर्जन परवर्जन है ही नहीं. सो तुम्हें किस बात का डर है? यू रीड दोस बुक्स एंड यू स्टार्ट काउंटरिंग दिस पीपल. अच्छा, पाकिस्तान का ये स्टडी बोल दिया. दूसरा बंगाली के बारे में बात हो रहा था. अभी देवी चौधरी नाम का एक मूवी आ रहा है जिसमें ये लोगों ने ये दिखाया है कि जो भवानी पाठक एंड वो जो गैंग था, दे आर एक्चुअली फॉर्मिंग अलायंस विद द मुस्लिम्स. जस्ट इमेजिन, तुम देवी चौधरी दिखा रहे हो, बंकिम चंद्र चट्टोपाध्याय के एक इससे दिखा रहे हो, और वहां पे तुम हिंदू मुस्लिम अलायंस दिखा रहे हो टू फाइट द ब्रिटिश. इससे रैम्पेंट, मतलब इन योर फेस सबवर्शन क्या हो सकता है? If this is not subversion through culture and cinema and whatever, right, tradition, इससे ज्यादा क्या हो सकता है? Now they are digesting and they are appropriating Bankim Chandra as well, just because you are not saying, you are not being vocal about it. So Devi Chaudhary ने, you heard right कि they are showing कि some Hindu Muslim alliance. मतलब बंकिम चंद्र शमशान से उठ के आ जाएगा ये देख के. This is so vicious. State to stand up. There is also this fear of state तो है ही, right? As if we treat the state more important than our dharma, right? ये तो है ही. ये तो मतलब काफी ऑब्वियस है, एटलीस्ट ये जो नरेंद्र मोदी टाइप जो पर्सन है. मतलब इतना तो, जैसे आज योगी जी ने कहा है जो रैली में, जैसे जिस मतलब दबदबे के साथ कहा है कि चंड मुंड बनोगे तो निपटा दिया जाओगे, राइट? तो ये दबदबा दिखता, शायद हम लोग सोच रहे हैं कि 10 साल 20 साल बाद थोड़ा कर देंगे. ऐसे नहीं होगा ना. 10-20 साल में डेमोग्राफी और बदल जाएगा और काम तमाम हो जाएगा. तब जो करना है वो अभी करना होगा, नहीं तो कभी नहीं कर पाओगे.
Bijit, just I think we need to take this point, but the state should give a level playing field between different ideologies and prefer Hindu studies via giving heavy grants to lateral entries. So without that, Hindus won't get into these fields. Okay, see, there is a like fundamental argument which I have been telling in my podcast and others quite regularly. The problem is social capital. Correct? Social capital is the mother of all capital, which actually gives birth to political capital, to financial capital, to symbolic capital, to cultural capital. Until like-minded people come together and do do work together, take care of each other, okay, make sure that somebody is fallen, they are taken care of. They build institutions which actually help and perpetuate the knowledge which has been created to the next generations. These these are these things will not be long lasting. That what we have seen in terms of Abrahamic ideologies. They have built institutions, they have built frameworks, they have built processes which make sure that even somebody doesn't want to go to a Sunday church, even somebody doesn't want to go to a Friday prayer, they have to go because that is community's obligation to them. So some there in 100 people there will be 10 people who will be divergent. That is how human congregation works, human mind works. Okay, but you to make sure that the 9 people, 10 people, or 7 people are in a same frequency, doing things which they do not want to do, because that is for a greater good of the community itself. Because today if I have a problem, my community will take care of me, and that perception is very important to make sure that you do something which is you may not want to do, because that is important. So from my perspective, Hindus have lost that long term vision, because like we have a bigger ego, and we think that okay, my small community is my world, and that first principles, which is again Shivaji was a prime example. He went to Tanjavur to actually free Hindu temples. He was a Maratha king. He did not have to do that, correct? But he did because he knew the first principles of dharma.
Same
Now
things went to
that
Banaras.
exactly
After the
correct.
Mahmud Ghaznavi, they went to
Hmm.
Banaras.
And Ahilyabai Holkar built temples in Banaras. Ahilyabai Holkar was the probably was the biggest he she built the most temples, rebuilt temples. Correct.
Right.
So this first principle of dharma, it cannot be carried forward by any politician, by any state, or anybody or any political party. This has to be a social responsibility of every individual, which we need to contribute to. The problem is
Right, right.
we are depending on some set of power structures which are going to be vanished tomorrow, and this is not
But
sustainable.
I have to say one. I mean, there is one small caveat here, right?
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Which is that key to counter a like cult like Christianism, because they are entering by implementation of law, subversion of law. यहाँ पे मतलब until unless state is actually going against neutralism, even neutralism, you cannot reverse the process.
Okay,
And this is
I get
जैसे
your point.
कॉन्स्टेंटाइन का
Now
पोता
let
जब
me
आया,
interject it.
कॉन्स्टेंटाइन का पोता जब आया, एक स्मॉल पॉइंट है, तब क्रिश्चियन ने ये कहा था कि ये तो मतलब छोटा सा एक बादल जैसा है, ये तो 30-40 साल में चला जाएगा. सेम चीज जो अवैसी ने कहा है कि मोदी जब चला जाएगा, जब योगी, तुम लोग तब क्या करोगे, because they are hoping कि it is probably going to be a small cloud which is just going to pass by.
Vijay, now just analyze the argument. Correct. What I am saying is that state will be in favor of you, or state will be fair with you only if you have built the social capital. If you do not have the social capital, today is state is maybe with you in some or the other things, but it will not be tomorrow, because social capital is going to make sure that state is going to be fair to you, or maybe unfair, or maybe more favorable to you. We have we Hindus have to get rid of this morality that I have to be fair and equitable to everybody. If your intention is to exterminate my identity, I will not be fair with you.
Right, right.
Okay, so correct. A lot of people say correct that I am a RSS fanboy. Okay, I am defending RSS
No, no,
in
but
podcast. No, I am saying
law
that
को तो change करना होगा ना उससे.
no. I vehemently disagree with the stand taken by RSS that they want to be fair to people. Okay, I say you be fair to people who respect you. You should not be fair to people who want to dismantle you. Simple. Okay, that
Right,
is
right.
something my point of view. Okay, and there is no question about it, and that is one of the problems which we face a moral dilemma doing something. That we have this moral dilemma, the other side has no dilemma, and they can act faster, they can do something. I will be thinking I should do it is good or bad. Till then you will be thinking and you will be gone.
Right.
So that is something which we have to like think about it, do meditate on, and as a society, as an individual, that do you
Right.
have to be like that? Because
जैसे
your
मैं फिर से
survival.
बोल रहा हूँ, जैसे
Hmm,
योगी जी का जो प्राउड अनाउंसमेंट था आज कि तुम्हें पता नहीं है राज किसका है, आई लाइक दैट स्टेटमेंट. यू गिव दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टेटमेंट कि ऐसे जो भी मौलाना बोल रहा है उसको ऐसा करूंगा कि साथ उसके पुरखे याद रखेंगे उसके साथ जो किया जाएगा. यू गिव दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टेटमेंट. इससे दो चीज होता है. एक, क्योंकि दीज कार्ड्स दे थ्राइव ऑन फियर. उनके घर तक जब वो डर पहुंचता है, देन फिर वहां से चालू होने, फिर उसका गला सूखता है. जब तक वहां तक डर नहीं जाएगा तब तक वो ओपनली फिर प्रीच करते रहेंगे, दो तीन लोगों को ऐसे कन्वर्ट करते रहेंगे. मुझे पता होगा कि अगर मतलब ये बंदा जो बैठा हुआ है ये इतना खतरनाक है, तो वो स्टॉप करेंगे, उनका गला सूखेगा और फिर वहां से तुम रिवर्स करना चालू करो पूरे प्रोसेस को. राइट.
yes, but that cannot
और वो
happen
सिर्फ
without.
मतलब प्राउड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर सिर्फ नहीं, लोगों को भी, जैसे बोल रहे हो कि
Hmm,
सोशल
hmm,
कैपिटल,
hmm,
लोगों को भी प्राइड एक रखना पड़ेगा. अदर देन दैट, मैं और एक आज आइडिया सोच रहा था कि टेम्पल के जो सोने वोने हैं वो तो ऐसे भी चोरी हो रहा है.
hmm.
सो तुम एक प्रोसेस, हिंदू शुड गो टू कोर्ट एंड से दैट भाई हमारा जो सोना वोना है हमें बैंक में रख के हमें लोन का इंतजाम करो, कि कोलेटरलाइज लोन दो, और वो लोन लेके फिर यू स्टार्ट रिवर्सिंग द कन्वर्जन. और फिर बैंक से अगर गहना वहना चोरी हो गया, बैंक का लेना देना है ना, हमारा क्या लेना देना है. लेकिन हमें तो लोन में मिलेगा ना. द पॉइंट इज यू, मतलब ये जो एसेट रख रहे हो उस एसेट को मोबिलाइज करो. इट्स नॉट लाइक यू
Yes,
आर जस्ट गोइंग टू स्टोर द सोना समवेयर. अगर
but
बैंक के लॉकर में भी रख रहे हो उसको कोलेटरलाइज्ड लोन में कन्वर्ट करो, उस लोन को लेके फिर बाहर ये सब सोशल कैपिटल बिल्ड करो.
yeah, but these things are not coming because of this again fundamental principle ke due to whatever things has happened to us. It can be your morality, it can be your ego. I'm talking about Hindus in general. Your morality, your ego, maybe you are a passive by nature. Okay, there is no movement by anybody to actually free temples. Correct. Now nobody is talking about okay, everybody goes to temples. I go to temples, but I am not fighting to free my temples. I need to ask this question to me: why I am not doing this? Is there something wrong with me that why I am not doing this?
राइट.
Now that question is nobody is asking today. I ask this question to myself, but I want to ask people who are watching: how many times you ask that question to yourself and what you have done about it?
राइट. सो जैसे एक पॉइंट, यूएसए में लोग पता है क्या
Hmm.
करते हैं, इनका जो सेनेटर होता है, लोग मतलब लोग जो लोकल एमपी या एमएलए होते हैं, उनको ये लोग उनका ईमेल आईडी इनके पास रहता है, आम आदमी के पास. दे राइट ईमेल, दे से कि दिस इज माय डिमांड फ्रॉम यू. और काफी मतलब मान लीजिए 10-15, बिकॉज दे नो हाउ टू फॉर्म क्राउड. राइट. सो 10-15-20-100 ईमेल जाता है वो सेनेटर के पास. एंड देन दे क्लियरली से कि भाई ये अगर 5 साल में या 4 साल में इंप्लीमेंट नहीं हुआ, अगले बार मैं तुम्हें वोट नहीं दूंगा. दे राइट इट इन द ईमेल. So you do the same thing, na? You get the phone number of the MPs, MLAs, and email ID of those people, and let's form a crowd and write to them. Tell them कि भाई ये हमारा डिमांड है. अगर ऐसे तुम इकट्ठा करोगे लोगों को या मेल भी लिख दोगे, इससे तो थोड़ा बहुत एमपी को भी पता होगा ना, कि उनके भी तो दिमाग खुलेगा कि भाई ये कर सकते हैं. बात ये है कि पार्लियामेंट में हिंदू वर्ड अटर करने के लिए कोई बंदा नहीं है. आज
Yeah,
जैसे आज
that is
जैसे
because we
आज जैसे
don't demand our
पाकिस्तान
rights.
था, पाकिस्तान का जो
Vijitda.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर जाके हिंदुत्व को गाली दिया, जो इंडिया का रिस्पॉन्स था, दे कुड नॉट से इन द मतलब यूनाइटेड नेशंस की भाई तुम हिंदुत्व को गाली मत दो, हिंदू इज दिस एंड दिस एंड दिस रिलीजन, और हिंदू जेनोसाइड हुआ है 1000 सालों से. ये बोलने का औकात नहीं है इंडियन स्टेट का यूनाइटेड नेशंस में.
Yes, see, in parliament, nobody utters the word Hindu. Isn't that the proof that we as Hindus do not have any Swayam or Shatru Bodh? That is a reflection of our parliament.
No, in a way it is about Astha, because
It is
yourself
our
are
correct.
framing the argument
Hmm.
कि ये हमें करना होगा और
No, no, no,
हमारे.
no, 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 no. I am not saying. I am saying that if me as a voter, okay, or a lot of people who vote, okay, If they are not putting their demand to the person who is being voted to the parliament, then the parliament, see, politics inherently is about correct incentives. Correct. I am going to tell a politician, I have this amount of votes. Tell me what you will do for me, and I will vote for you. That's how politics works. Right now, we don't talk about idealisms. Correct. Today it happens. Now we as a community are able to do that. Not. For that reason, that politician has no incentive to do what you are saying, because there is no vote bank which he can bank upon.
Right, right.
That's correct. So in that case, it is all. I am not saying the politician is good. I am saying what he is doing is, in a way, is a reflection of our perspective. We don't care about it. We don't care if somebody says Hindu word.
It's an amalgamation of a lot of things.
Exactly.
For
There are a lot
example,
of things are there.
Congress is rabidly like anti-Hindu. Now, if you have that kind of opposition,
Hmm.
we are Hindus are thinking, भाई एक तो at least एक centrist party तो है, right? मतलब हमारे लिए like BJP is क्या बोलते हैं the lesser evil
Yeah,
एक हिसाब से.
exactly. Lesser evil. This is how politics
अगर
is there as of now.
कांग्रेस 2-3 मुद्दा उठाता हिंदू होगा, फिर ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं आता. मैं कांग्रेस को किस लिए वोट नहीं, क्योंकि मुझे पता है कांग्रेस को वोट दूंगा मैं डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाऊंगा. देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ फैक्शंस व्हिच आर सेइंग लिटरली कि भाई लेकिन बीजेपी को वोट दोगे तो अच्छा हो जाएगा क्या. मुझे पता है बीजेपी अगर चला गया यहाँ से तो मैं तो खत्म हूँ फिर. इट इज जस्ट लाइक ब्रिंगिंग कॉन्स्टेंटाइन द ग्रेट इनटू पावर और हिज सन इनटू पावर. So Congress is not seeing, because obviously they have apparently a Christian lobby and a Christian family running Congress, right? वो क्रिश्चियन फैमिली अगर कांग्रेस की इक्वेशन से हट गया, फिर शायद कांग्रेस का थोड़ा दरवाजा खुलेगा कि दिस गाय इज नॉट, मतलब मोदी जैसे हिंदू बोल रहा है हिंदू नहीं है, फिर हम लोग ट्रस्ट भी करेंगे. अभी तो कोई तरीका ही नहीं है कांग्रेस को वोट देने का. तो दिस इज ऑल्सो अ फैक्ट कि अब ऑपोजिशन ऐसा है, इसलिए हम लोग सोच रहे हैं ठीक है बीजेपी तो एटलीस्ट यूनाइटेड एक पार्टी तो है जो देश में थोड़ा बहुत पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी लाया है. दिस इज राइट नाउ
See,
द
it
थिंकिंग
is
ऑफ मोस्ट ऑफ
always
द हिंदूज.
it is always about correct. You choose. You have 100 rupees. I have 1,000 rupees. I will go and buy something which costs me 800 rupees. You will buy something which costs you 80 rupees. Same way, it is about the choice that you make. Okay. It is not about how ideally I want to be.
राइट.
Yeah. Anyway, Bijit, I think it is uh, about 2.5 hours.
राइट राइट. सो हाँ,
So we can
आई
continue this in our next session. I think we can
हाँ
continue our
नहीं
next
नहीं,
session,
जस्ट
the
गिव मी
lecture.
5 मिनट्स. आई थिंक
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
5 मिनट में मुझे यही बोलना था कि फिर
Yeah, go on.
ब्लास्फेमी लॉ आया 388 एडी में. फिर द नेक्स्ट थिंग दैट हैपेंड वाज दैट कि हाँ, जैसे क्लोथिंग के थ्रू स्टॉइसिज्म ये सब अपनाने लगे ये लोग. फिर इंक्विजिशन को बैन किया गया, राइट? कि द स्टेटेड एम्स ऑफ हिस्टोरियन स्टार्टेड टू चेंज टू व्हेन द ग्रीक ऑथर हेरोडोटस, फॉर एग्जांपल द फादर ऑफ हिस्ट्री. सो हेरोडोटस ने एक जो हिस्टोरिकल अकाउंट लिखे थे उसमें ही ट्राइड टू राइट हिस्ट्री व्हिच इज बेसिकली द इंक्वायरीज. हिस्टोरियस जो वर्ड है, ग्रीक वर्ड, वहां से हिस्ट्री आया है. हिस्टोरियस का एक्चुअल मीनिंग इंक्वायरीज है. नाउ व्हाट वाज द इंक्वायरिंग इनटू द रिलेशन बिटवीन द ग्रीक्स एंड द पर्शियन. And he was so balanced in keeping the narrative and in keeping the story, so like writing it from both the side of the Greek as well as Persian, कि काफी टाइम लोग उनको बोल रहे थे कि he was almost siding with Persia, and they were saying कि अच्छा, overpraising the Greeks enemies what he was doing. And also he was a barbarian lover because the Greeks used to look at Persia as barbarians. So this is apparently a barbarian lover. But यहाँ पे क्या हुआ? So the last of the pagan historian, Ammianus Marcellinus, he struggled to achieve it. The posterity, he wrote, ought to be impartial judge of the past. कि past को जब judge कर रहे हैं, being a pagan philosopher, we should be impartial. But then the Christian historians, like Marxist Pastafi historian in our case, the Christian historians took a different view. As the influential Christian writer Eusebius, who is basically like Herodotus was the father of history, Eusebius was the father of church history. And he wrote, the job of the historian was not to record everything, but instead only those things that would do a Christian good to read. Uncomfortable truths, such as awkward fact that many Christian clerics, rather than leaping onto the great persecution spires, had instead scuttled away from them with undignified haste, were not to be dwelt on. कि जो भी अनकंफर्टेबल ट्रूथ है, जिसको लेके जो हमारे क्लेरिक्स है वो ढंग से बता नहीं सकते, we should, history should discard those. It's not like we should discard that history, but history should not include those things because those are anti-Christian. Hence, those are like anti-God and anti-civilization and everything. Instead, Eusebius crisply announced, quote, I am determined, therefore, to say nothing even about those. Those means those uncomfortable truths. And I shall not include in my overall account, I shall include in my overall account only those things by which first we ourselves, then the later generations may benefit. Herodotus had seen history as an inquiry from the very word of history, right? Historia. Historia is inquiry. But the father of church history saw it as a parable. क्रिश्चियंस के लिए हिस्ट्री एक पैराबल बन के रह गया, ठीक है, नॉट अ सब्जेक्ट ऑफ इंक्वायरी बट एज अ पैराबल. What was not of profit could easily fade from view. The shocking death of Hypatia ought to have merited a good deal of attention in the histories of the period. Instead, it is treated lightly and obliquely, if at all. In history, as in life, no one in Alexandria was punished for her murder. There was a cover up. Some writers were highly critical, even to fervent Christian eyes. This was an appalling act, but not all. As one Christian bishop later recorded with admiration, once the satanic woman had been destroyed, then all the people surrounded Cyril in acclamation, for he had destroyed the last remains of idolatry in the city. The affected myopia of Christian historians would be magnificent, as the historian Ramsay Macmillan had put it, quote, hostile writings and discarded views were not recopied or passed on, or they were actively suppressed. The church acted as a great and at times fierce filter on all written material. The centuries of its control as a differently permeable membrane that allowed the writings of Christianity to pass through, but not of Christianity's enemies. तो ये जो सिलेक्टिव हिस्ट्री राइटिंग का जो हम लोग इनकी मतलब हम लोग ब्लेम देते हैं, हम लोग क्लेम करते हैं कि हिस्ट्री राइटिंग इज 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 ऑब्वियसली मतलब बायस्ड, इसका रिकॉर्डेड जो प्रूफ हमें मिलता है वो ये क्रिश्चियन हिस्टोरियंस के राइटिंग से मिलता है कि वी हैव टू राइट इट इन सच ए वे कि क्रिश्चियनिटी का फॉल्ट इससे छुप जाए. So this is my submission, last submission on this topic. बाद में हम लोग फिर थोड़ा डिस्कस करेंगे कि जो कॉन्टेम्पोरेरी पेगन फिलोसोफर्स थे उनके नजरों में, जैसे हम लोग फर्स्ट लेक्चर में थोड़ा बहुत किए थे, बट इसको हम लोग कंटिन्यू करेंगे थोड़ा रेनेसा एंड एनलाइटनमेंट वो वाला जो एक लेक्चर आएगा उसमें. प्रोबेबली नेक्स्ट टॉपिक क्या होगा, नेक्स्ट टॉपिक में शायद जेनोसाइड एंड destruction है हमारा.
Yeah, the we have the list actually. The podcast, the list is already there in the description.
Right.
The okay.
So
We're
हमारा
going to
नेक्स्ट है जेनोसाइड एंड डिस्ट्रक्शंस. तो हाँ, फिर हम लोग अगले एपिसोड में जो भी ये सब इवेंट हुआ था हाइपेशिया का थोड़ा डिस्कस करेंगे, बिकॉज यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड हाइपेशिया was adulated both for her beauty as well as for her like fame and knowledge. हाइपेशिया उस जमाने का एक फेनोमेना थी. उस जमाने मतलब इट इज जस्ट लाइक आज के जमाने में आइंस्टाइन एंड न्यूटन को तुम बिल्कुल a woman Newton and woman Einstein, you stripped her of her clothes, you just humiliate her. जैसे न्यूटन या आइंस्टाइन को नंगा करके मार दिया गया, ये अगर इवेंट आज के जमाने में हो तो कितना शॉक आएगा कि स्टीवन हॉकिंग को कोई भी एक ईरान का क्लेरिक गया, स्टीवन हॉकिंग को बीच चौराहे पे नंगा करके मार दिया गया. Stephen Hawking is dead now, but I'm just saying because he was the most popular face in recent time. तो कैसा शॉक लगेगा, ये उस जमाने में अलेक्जेंड्रिया में हुआ था. एंड आफ्टर दैट लार्ज नंबर ऑफ फेमस टेम्पल्स एंड एवरीथिंग गॉट डिस्ट्रॉयड, जो हम लोग अगले एपिसोड में डिस्कस करेंगे.
Okay, so let's answer this last question and we'll say adios to a lot of people. Aren't Hindus more concerned about seeking more opportunities for their localized groups since they are not empowered? Middle class from below middle class. Will this change once many are middle class? Okay, so that is
I
the
agree with
five.
I agree with this. That's why I don't matlab, at times I don't feel ki I don't get harsh on Hindus or whatever on Hindu society. Matlab, it has gone through a lot and it has survived. So kudos to us and congratulations, and we are proud people, right? Ki we have survived like the battle with Christianism and also with Islam. And I am very sure ki and like in the process what we have invented, yes, we have invented Hindutva. If that is a word to connotate the political Hinduism, yes, we have invented it. Okay, it was not there, but it is there now. So the whole political doctrine around Hinduism, it is there, and we have invented it in recent time. And probably this is just going to propagate, just like other religion, like whatever other superstition, like Christianism or these things propagated, right? So obviously, if Hinduism and Sanatana is going to propagate, it is going to propagate along with or behind this whole political doctrine of Hindutva. Because Hindutva has taken it just like what we are doing right now, attacking Christianism or Islam. We are doing from this whole responsibility that we feel being a Hindutvadi, right? In the even in the terms of the these
Other
Islamist
side.
or communist, they are calling us Hindutvadi and not Hindu. We should embrace it, right? Should embrace ki how we are Hindutvadi who are going to question the Islam, the superstition of Islam and Christianism. Who are willing to propagate Hinduism or Hindu Dharma or Sanatana, whatever you call it. And so I see a very proud, bright future of Hindus. And obviously, the middle class is going to emerge in 10, 20 years. And it is probably that class will be unstoppable because, I mean, you see around us,
Bijit,
for
Bijit
example,
da.
the new people who are joining our company. Just a second. And
Hmm.
I see they are very proud people. And matlab, 20 years before, probably we were not like this. And now I see people joining the company and they are very proud and they are there with their argument. It's very difficult to matlab, hataify them. And so probably more people are going to come and join this whole movement.
Okay, there are two things, fundamental things, technical things we need to understand. So first is the $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 argument, correct? Which most economists have, or economists, or we say some other profession they have. So they have this linear view that okay, if you have $5,000 per capita income to $10,000 income, you will have better roads and all those things. Okay, we are and one more thing, and that is something which is a, one part of the argument, not the whole part. If you are going to achieve $5,000 or $10,000 per capita income, it does not mean automatically that you will be a more Hindu than you were, yes, after 5 years. Correct. It is the one parameter by which you need to measure how things are working. And second thing, Vijitda, the middle class, it has never led any specific change. Okay, the change generally happens sociologically, the top 20% or top 10%. So it happens in a way that the person who is middle class now will become upper class and will become an industrialist. If that middle class fortunately is a rooted Hindu, then he will become an industrialist and he will fund those institutions, which is going to make sure that the Hindu Rajyam occurs. So there is a bit of a it's a very simplistic argument, but I am giving you the more details. Okay, that just by having $10,000 per capita income is not going to make you a more Hindu person. There are a lot of intricate things which has to happen in the background, which will make it happen. But yes, it's a very important catalyst. But
Right.
if we are unable to build our own institutions, take back our temples, invest in institutions, colleges, educations, gurukuls, build political parties, political ideologies, which make sure that our agenda, okay, the agenda of Hindu unity, agenda of Sanatan Dharma is pushed and make sure that the state takes care of it. State is not anti to it. All these things will have to happen to make it happen. It's not only about $5,000 per capita income. I hope I answered your question.
True, true,
Question, Vijita.
true, true. True, but I think, I mean, Hindus are getting unstoppable, and the Hindutva is going to be unstoppable. This is, I mean, obvious. Like, for example, if I stop talking or Bhupendra stop talking today, is it going to stop the whole movement? For example, I'm just taking one random example. It is not, right? So we can see the whole flood around us. So, and still we are like whatever 140 crore, and so these many people are there. So, and there is a voice which is in coherence, and the strength is there in diversity, because there are so many languages, so many thoughts, ways. So it is very difficult to defeat such a race, right? It's not
Yes.
like there are 26 different. No, it is one nation with so much diversity. You come up with one rationale, and we have the exact matlab, opposite of it. If you come up with one stereotype, we have exactly opposite of it. So, matlab, such a diverse nation is very difficult to beat, right?
Yes, but that is also becomes our antithesis in terms of coherence. So we lack the coherence that the other side had, and we have to build. From my perspective, building the first principles is the most important thing to build that coherence that we need to actually become an unstoppable force. if we
Right,
if we still, let's say, after 30 years from now, when you and I are old, if we have the same kind of incoherent movement, then it is not going to lead where it should be. So from an
right,
incoherent to a coherent movement has to be built upon, and that is
right,
your responsibility, my responsibility, everybody's responsibility. Let go of your ego little bit. If somebody doesn't agree with you, do not say, okay, okay, I will not going to work with him.
hmm,
That is the most important thing. Okay. If somebody is even 5% Hindu, you need to make sure that you are working with him. Don't shun
right,
him away because he doesn't agree with 100% of your perspective. So that coherence
right.
has to come from us, and it is our responsibility, your responsibility, and everybody who's listening responsibility. Think about it. Don't be reactive everywhere. Hindus are very reactive in nature. Just be a little bit strategic in your approach. Just be a little bit tactical in your approach when you're dealing with things. Don't be reactive the way we have done previously. So that's it for today. Last word to Vijitha, then we'll close it.
Yeah, so there will be 8, 9 more lectures, and
Hmm.
next will be on genocide and destructions. And as we are discussing, I want to let you know that the books that we are talking about, the reference that we are talking about, it is being spread. The message that we are trying to spread through these lectures. These messages are reaching the right places, and in some of the famous YouTube channels, during discussions, people are talking about these things and references. And I called Bhupenda, told him we are reaching the right places. So yeah, I think we are going to have an impact with this lecture series. Um, yeah, watch us, join us for discussion, share these discussions among various WhatsApp groups, talk about these things.
Okay, and
Um,
one more
you
thing,
can write
Vijitha.
a few comments also. Uh-huh.
Yeah, actually, well, a lot of people see you can copy my content and distribute it. Correct. I have never
Right.
told anybody don't use it. Make a clip, and if you want to do it. Okay.
Short
I am
videos
not
and
going to
anything. Right.
tell you, okay, okay, why you have used my video, give me money. Okay. I'm happy that
Right.
you are using my content. Okay. So sometimes people might think, okay, just copy. A lot of people do it actually, but I'm telling you just for people. Copy the
Right.
content, cut it, and give it to send it to people. Okay, if you think something is there which people might like it. Okay, so we are here to
Exactly.
spread the message, no, not to tell anybody, okay, don't use my content.
It is just that we don't have enough time to make matlab, small clips and small videos, short videos. But you can make short videos out of these, and distribute, spread it among your fellows, among youths. Because again, in colleges, I have seen ki they have enough arguments against Islam, but not against Christianity. But Christianity is is the womb of all these sort of uh, um, uh, perversive ideologies. So yeah, just go through our references, our lectures here, spread it with your friends, and tell them to join our Navavimarsh channel, subscribe to it, and yeah, and join us with comments, with discussions, and over Twitter if possible. So thank you so much for listening to us, and we are grateful. And yeah, so thanks. And yeah,
Yeah.
Shubham Mahapanchami. Shubham Mahapanchami. And yeah, wish you nice, happy Durga Puja. So that's all. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Jai Shri Ram. Vande Mataram.
Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram.